we are extremely worried as the minority why President Mahama will still proceed to cause the removal of the Chief Justice when there is what we call the independence of the judiciary. And there is a matter pending before the judges of the same Supreme Court.
Well, let's put it this way. We live in a country which is very, very political, and perhaps sometimes it affects or it clouds people's judgment, conduct, action, utterances, and so on and so forth. But when there is a particular provision in the Constitution, I see what has been said or done is actually in compliance with what is in the Constitution.
Let's lean in a bit on your experience when the first petition was taken by Professor Kweku Asare to President Akufo-Addo. You were one of the members of the Council of State who were consulted in that entire process. Considering the position you have now on the argument that this process could be subject to political manipulation, what would you say are the lessons you drew from that process and what can be done going forward from what we've seen play out today?
Well, this is what I'm saying, that constitutional provisions are there, but it does not prevent people from putting political sentiments into it. It does not prevent it from happening. It can happen. And so far as I know, the previous petition that was sent made against the Chief Justice was surprisingly dated 18th December, which I thought was a little odd, that if a government is in office for maybe some 3 weeks or so only, and then somebody sends a petition, it smacks of, something else. But of course, it was dealt with by the Council of State, and the Council of State said they found no merit in the petition, and so we recommend that it be dismissed. So that is what happened. But then the question is that when people are bent on someone, then you find out that, well, personally, I feel that it's a dangerous thing for any democracy. When you begin to, when the public is allowed, well, sometimes when people say that the public has a right, yes, the question, of course, is that the public right sometimes is also suspicious in the sense that not everybody understands the judicial system or the way it works.
Right.
Not everybody even understands what goes on in the court. Sometimes even a judgment is given and people accuse the judges of being biased and so because the judgment does not come the way they want it to be. Unfortunately, even sometimes some of my own legal colleagues also make utterances of that nature, which is quite sad, because we know that when you go to court, you either win or you lose. And also being a law teacher, I realized many times that the student made that mistake of having a pass mark. And I always try to tell them that in the court there is no pass mark. You either win or you lose. And so when you are a lawyer, you go to court, you have to prepare yourself very well to win your case, not to depend upon pass mark. So I would say that we are human beings, so we are subject to all the weaknesses that is inherent in the human race, where we have biases, we have prejudices, we have preferences, and we realize that our biases, our preferences, and the rest should prevail, as opposed to what others think. So, well, let's see what the will do.
Right. Where do you think this decision to suspend the Chief Justice leave the country's judiciary? What are the possible repercussions?
Well, so these were the thoughts and views about the decision that was taken by President John Dramani Mahama after the advice from the Council of State to suspend the Chief Justice as enshrined in Article 146(10)A of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. There's been a number of reactions to this particular development, especially because this is the first time in our judicial history that we've gotten to this point in the Fourth Republic, at least. There's been a number of petitions against previous Chief Justices, but all did not get to the point of the presidents at the time exercising this particular discretion upon advice from the Council of State to suspend a sitting Chief Justice. So probably that's why this has generated this much reaction and conversation. And this morning, that's exactly what we're going to be getting into. Exactly what has the president done right, or in the words of others who find issue with what has happened now, what has he done wrong? Now, the Ghana Bar Association issued a statement this week, the Federation of Women Lawyers, and also we have a number of other civil society organizations all issuing statement in this particular matter. But what is the position of the law? Essentially, that is going to be the conversation this morning here on Key Point. We'll have the representatives of civil society, private legal practitioners, and indeed the Ghana Bar Association also having a voice on this matter this morning. The latest is that the Member of Parliament for Otafu, Vincent Assefuah, has again filed a suit at the Supreme Court seeking to block the President's recent suspension of the Chief Justice. He said he's seeking to suspend the suspension of the Chief Justice. But we would understand what the consequence of this particular application by Vincent Assefuah is, especially because what he's seeking to do has already been done, as in suspending the Chief Justice has already taken place. What is the exact merit of his application and the intended consequence thereof? So we would have an understanding of this particular development this morning. Well, the petitions, some of them indeed, the NDC, that's the New Patriotic Party minority in Parliament, have described it as feeble, frivolous. But how much good does that position also have on the Chief Justice? We'll have a conversation this morning here on Key Point. Today, the Narcotics Control Commission is going to be joining us for a conversation. There are other serious matters of national concern which we will deal with this morning. Over the last at least less than 3 months, there's been major drug busts. That's cocaine busts by the Narcotics Control Commission. We want to understand exactly what's going on. What has changed? What's happening right now? And where do these drugs end up? These major busts that they have done over the period. How do they destroy or discard these cocaine consignments that they have intercepted, at least over the last 8 weeks and beyond? There's been a history in this country where cocaine gets missing under the watch of security personnel. So there are security agencies, in fact, and the analysts who are asking questions about how these drugs that have been intercepted so far, where they are kept and how they are discarded. We'll have a conversation this morning here on Key Point. Illegal mining is heavy on our radar as well this morning, because the Lands and Natural Resources Minister addressed the press this week. Akunta Mining has hit back to say they are not to blame for all the things that the minister is blaming them for. What next? Because the forest reserve that the minister talked about, there's evidence of destruction over there. So who is to be held responsible? That's the question we're asking this morning. Stay with us. We're back shortly after this quick break here on Key Point. My guests will join me in the studio and also virtually, and we'll have a conversation. Stay with us after this quick break. We're on. Welcome. On TV3, we're live on 3FM 92.7, also on the Voice of the UK radio, also on TV as well for the diaspora, especially those in the heart and the city of London. Thank you very much for connecting with us this morning. And then also a number of radio stations across the country and on 3FM 92.7 this morning. The Narcotics Control Commission, NARCOC, has busted a number of cocaine consignments over time. At least over the last 8 to 9 weeks, we've had a number of these reports coming through. The latest is what you see on the screen. For the benefit of those listening to us on the radio, this latest one was when some 4 Ghanaian nationals were detained following the interception of a cargo consignment at the sweet spot. But this that you're seeing on the screen has been described as the latest, that's the biggest cocaine bust in this country. And this particular one was recorded sometime in March, specifically the third week of March, where a groundbreaking operation with the National Intelligence Bureau and the Narcotics Control Commission led to the interception of a staggering 3,319.66 kilograms, that's 3.3 tons of substances suspected to be cocaine, with a street value of some approximately $350 million. This particular one that you see there, the massive haul was concealed in sacks and bags, cleverly hidden in heaps of sand in a tipper truck to evade detection. The vigilant NIB operatives were able to uncover the illicit cargo, marking a significant milestone in the country's fight against narcotics. Now, the tipper truck was arrested at Pedu Junction in Cape Coast in the central region en route to Accra. Abraham Amaleba is private legal practitioner, is acting director of the National Road Safety Authority. He's going to be joining us in a bit. We'll have a conversation on this matter. Now, the interception of the over 3,300 kilograms of cocaine, what you're seeing there, has been described as a significant achievement, marking about the largest cocaine seizures in the country's history. What you're saying there, the largest cocaine seizure in the country's history. The driver of this tipper truck was reported to be a 39-year-old Isaac Kweku, his assistant Kenneth Kobina, a 25-year-old tertiary level student. They are all in custody as we speak. Even before that, we had a number of these cases of cocaine busts. After this particular 3,319.66 kilograms, that's 3.3 tons, was intercepted, there was also the 192 kilograms cocaine with a street value of $2.1 million intercepted. Then there was 120 slabs of cocaine with a street value of $150 million also intercepted, all within the last 9 weeks, 8 to 9 weeks. Then the latest one, which was just few days ago, we'll put that on the screen right now, 73 slabs of cocaine weighing 89.7 kilograms, also intercepted by the Narcotics Control Commission officials. The consignment was reportedly being readied for export to the Netherlands. And that is the latest for this week, you understand? And which was on the 23rd of April, when 4 Ghanaian nationals were detained following the interception of this cargo consignment at the Swiss port. Now, this has generated some conversation about what exactly is happening, what is going on right now as we speak. How are these consignments that are intercepted, discarded, destroyed? And what exactly is happening? What's going on right now? It's led to these many cocaine busts as we are seeing. Abraham Amaleba is with us in the studio, private legal practitioner. Shortly, I will be joined by the Deputy Director General of the Narcotics Control Commission, Alexander Chumberima, to tell us what is happening. Martin Pebble is private legal practitioner, and also he is the convener of the Komipreko Reloaded demonstration and a former member of the Operation Recover All Loot Oral Preparatory Team. He's also going to be joining us right now for a conversation on this matter. Lawyer, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Alfred.
Thank you so much for making the time to be here.
Yes.
Also, Senior Hossi is going to be joining us in the next few minutes. He is one of the conveners for the One Ghana movement and also a financial economic policy analyst, joining us for a conversation on this matter. We'll also have the Ghana Bar Association join us subsequently for the next conversation that we would have. But I just outlined a number of these intercepted cocaine, which was either going through this country or intercepted at the point of entry or the point of exit from Ghana to another country. The concern is these many cases over this short period. What's your reading of all this?
So let me say good morning to your viewers. Ghana has long been recognized as a transit point when it comes to drugs. Then subsequently we became a user. Apart from being trafficked, there were instances that some of the drugs remain here. In recent times, I have seen, or you have realized, that the state security agents are doing so much work to bust these drug barons. Now, the question to ask is, if in 3 months, the state security agencies can make this number of arrests, which is more than the past 8 years in the previous administration, what do you think the situation is? Is it that in the past 8 years...
But why do you want to do politics with this?
It's not about politics. It's about the state and how state agencies are not performing or not up to the task. And now, if the state institutions are up and doing well, we need to commend them. So my point is not about politics. My point is, what were they doing in the past 8 years and were not, as it were, making these arrests? And now, just in 3 months, they are making the arrests. That's the focus of my submission. And so, if we are beginning to see this happening, because I don't think that Ghana was ever stopped from being used as a transit point. These drugs were being ferried through our shores. But now, you have a situation where these state institutions are doing well. What we can do is to commend them. But I also agree with those who say, where are these drugs after you seize them. I agree. I think that they need to come and tell us how these drugs are being disposed of, because I've not seen them burning anything anywhere. So clearly, if you get the chief executive or the deputy on the line.
No, he's joining us in the studio now.
In the studio, okay. When you get him, I want to know how these drugs are disposed. But kudos to the state security agencies for, as it were, engaging in this act of seizing these drugs. This one is the largest so far. And who knows, maybe others will begin to feel that the state security agencies are now up and doing, so they will desist from using our shores.
I see. But then again, you see that this particular one, which has been described as the largest, the modus operandi of these persons who are seeking to transit, or as it were transferred from the central region to the Greater Accra region, we understand this was received on the high seas and then transported onto waiting vehicles. And there are some who believe that the concentration of our fight against this illicit drug trade in this country has been concentrated on the major entry points, the land borders and the airports. Now we are seeing the major or the biggest drug bust in this country happening on the high seas. That's the transport of these illicit drugs from the high seas. What does that tell you?
Well, we can only be concerned about what comes into our land. What is on the high seas, if they don't cross into our Mediterranean, our part of the sea, it will be difficult for you to want to say that the state security agencies should, as it were, intercept those goods. We have some distance from the seashore, which is part of our continental shelf. Now, our state security agencies are only responsible for that 200 miles away from the shore. And so, if this bust was done within our territorial borders, which includes the 200 meters from the shore, I think that it means we are doing well in terms of protecting our territorial boundaries. But it is important for you to know that before they make this type of arrest, they would have trailed the people for a long time. And there would have been intelligence that some people are bringing in this amount of drugs. So sometimes what they do, and when you get the man on the line, when he comes here, he will tell you, when you are carrying drugs which are not of any huge quantity, they can allow you to pass when they know that that amount of drugs will not have any negative effect on the country. So whilst they do that, they give you false hope, thinking that, oh, the security agencies in this country are lackadaisical. But they are baiting you. They are baiting you. So I won't be surprised if I am told that it wasn't just one morning or one afternoon that information reached them that this is coming. They would have laid ambush, they would have gathered intelligence for a very long time, which gave the drug barons or those carrying the drugs a false hope that Ghana's borders or Ghana's territorial integrity is porous. And you notice that the arrest was done in a way that when the people were now moving the drugs to Accra from Cape Coast, that it was intercepted. So on a daily basis, we have tipper trucks plying those roads. and nobody stopped those tipper trucks.
Yeah.
But to stop the tipper truck and suspect that that tipper truck has drugs in it is as a result of well-connected intelligence. And I think that the security agencies did well by trailing this truck and by ensuring that this truck did not escape. Sometimes we hear that, oh, the security agencies are trailing the truck, but the truck has vanished. In this one, we are comforted by the fact that the security agencies did not allow this truck to escape.
Yeah.
And were able to intercept it.
And you see, that's where the other issue then comes in. And I'm going to be joined shortly by Senior Jose, who is the convener of the One Ghana movement, is taking a seat right now. And as I indicated to you, that this matter is of serious concern to us, especially because of what has been happening over the last few weeks gone by. And Lawyer Abraham Maliba, the fundamental question you ask about how these drugs are disposed of and where are they? These plenty cocaine consignments that have been intercepted, where are they as we speak?
We really do not want this thing to get onto the land. Our boys are already taking red. If this cache of cocaine, this amount of cocaine, lands into the country, you can imagine what will happen. So I actually want to know what happened to the earlier consignment. Have they been destroyed? But I'm happy the man himself is here, and you take that opportunity to educate us as to what happens after here, after this arrest. When you take the consignment, what do you do to them?
What do you do to them? And that's Deputy Director General of the Narcotics Control Commission, Alexander Chumberima, is joined us in the studio for answers to the questions that all of you, a number of you, have been sending us questions. And after I just mentioned his name, that is going to be with us here the last 10 minutes ago. Chumberima, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much. And good morning to my senior here, my former director as well, and then to my brother Senor.
Great. Senor Jose is also joining us, as I indicated, Senor. It's always good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning. I wish I could make my preliminary comments.
You should.
Say good morning to everybody. But a few things happened this week that really put me quite uneasy and really upset me. We are a country in pursuit of nationhood. We are statehood, and the process to nationhood is not an absolute consequence. It's something we all work at. We've had harmony in our country. We live as different people from different tribes, different religions, and that does not define us as a people. We have coexisted in harmony. Comments I saw this week about Ghana not being ready for a Muslim president was so ridiculous, and I think that should be condemned. Any political party that is trying to pursue such an agenda should be embarrassed of itself. All right? We come from the nooks and the student politics background. We've had great leaders like Haruna Idrisu. We've had great leaders like Mohammed Amin Anta. We've had great leaders like Mustafa Hamid. We had many of them, all right, who were Muslims and also coming from the northern sector. There are times that ridiculous comments used to be passed and people use denigrating words like Pepe and all that nonsense, all right? What president do we have today? And we have a fine president, we all must admit. We are one people. Our conversations must be focused on the productivity and the wisdom, the vision that our leaders and commitment and character of the people we have. I've seen more corrupt Christians who sit on the front seat of our churches than I've even seen Muslims. I've seen equally corrupt Muslims who even pretend to be imams. It is inconsequential whether you are a Muslim or you're a Christian. What is important is where that heart is, what wisdom you have, what skills you have to help transform the life of our people, our children, our children's children, and the future of our country. So commentary like that should not be entertained in this country. Commentary around tribes, commentary around religion should not be entertained. We are one people. That pursuit must be in the fore of our thinking at all times. Good morning, Ghana.
But Senor, you also agree that the response coming from the person they were attacking as a Muslim is also good.
Okay, so
to say that he performed better than a reverend minister.
It's
was also stoking the fires.
Well, it's not up for.
He
only mentioned it.
He too must be mentioned.
Well, he only mentioned
he could have done better.
As part of his.
He could have also done better by raising the bar.
I have actually.
But that comment too is wrong.
My big brother Maliba is right.
He could have also raised the bar.
This is the kind of conversation we should have had as a response.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you are right.
What you are saying should have been the response.
Well said.
I agree.
Well said. Okay. Now, you're drawing my attention as well to our tuning up. It's been there's a little hitch, but if you go on our Facebook page and the YouTube page, we're live there right now. We're also live on the Voice of London radio, which is on the heart of the city of London. So you can also listen to us there. And as always, we're live on 3FM 92.7 on a number of radio stations across the country as well. Now, back to business. Now, Mr. Chumbarima, before you came in, I was showing you, our viewers and our listeners as well, the videos of your recent busts, cocaine busts. Now, there's been a fundamental concern about what is happening right now. Let's start off with the latest one. Tell us about the one that you intercepted a few days ago, the Swiss port. Was it based on intelligence you received or the routine checks, as has been described? This particular one.
All right. So good morning to to Ghanaians, and then to His Excellency the President, and the entire leadership of government, as well as my Director General, Brigadier General Manti. It's by his permission that I've been able to come to join you this morning.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
This very one that you showed.
No, the recent one.
The earlier one. Yeah. That one, well, there's nothing, I mean, it's not intelligence-led. As part of our activities, we are always at all the border posts, land, sea, and air. So our men at the air side intercepted it. And you see, normally items are being scanned when they are about to be shipped or to be exported. Mm-hmm. They are being scanned. So when at the scanning point where we become suspicious of anything, we pull out that particular baggage or whatever, and then we do some kind of physical checks. If we find anything that we need further confirmation on it, for instance, this one, they called the head office or the headquarters. I was just about to leave the office around that time, and the call came. So we have to go there with the K9, where those are our dogs, to go and do kind of a preliminary check, which is the sniffing, to confirm whether or not it's something that we suspect to be a narcotic. And upon doing so, yes, you see, the parcel itself is not black.
But what we are seeing looks like black.
So that's what I'm trying to describe for you. I was there. I don't know who took that this very one, but I was there. I was standing there when they were.
Yeah, we've covered your faces.
No, I'm not part of those visited anyway.
Okay. Anyway.
What happens that they applied some, should I say, chemical or substance on the entire parcel or on each parcel. So that is what you are seeing as black, but the item itself is not black.
I see.
You understand? Yeah. So is that chemical or whatever that they have applied on it just to be able to outweigh or to disguise the thing? Yeah, thank you. That is what you are seeing. So, when they do this sometimes too, in their mind, they think that when, for instance, the dogs are even sniffing, they will not perceive whatever they need to perceive. So that is why they did that. But at the end, they were able to get what we want, and we brought them to the. We arrested 4 people at that moment, and I think they were even taken to court yesterday, if I'm right.
They're taken to court. I see. So this was found out after just your routine checks. You do this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And you found this was being packaged to where? What was the destination?
It was going to Netherlands, which is Europe.
So what's the country of origin of this cocaine? Because we know we don't manufacture cocaine in this country.
I mean, those points, investigation will be leading to that. But what we know is that it was found in Accra here, and it was about to be shipped or to be exported to Europe or Netherlands. So that is what we can say for now. Every other information will come up later throughout or during our investigations.
So because you see, how the drugs get into this country is also another matter of concern. Because most of the time we've seen the concentration at the land borders, the airports and so on. But these large consignments certainly should be of concern to you as to how they get in. This is not just the one that somebody will swallow and or you put in a bag.
You see, let me put it in a very simple terms. People have impunity to misbehave. And they think that at all point in time they can have their way in doing whatever they want to do. Just yesterday afternoon, we were out on rounds. We went for an institutional visit with GPHA and we went to the Tema Port as well with the Director General. And just as we were on the field, we had another report of another arrest of someone who had brought in cannabis.
I see.
And so in some bags. The point is, doing that, is it not a kind of impunity that you think you have to test us or to try us to see whether or not we can arrest you? Because if not that, how on earth can you carry, for instance, cannabis in bags or in a bag, travel with it to Ghana with the intention that you're going to deliver it to somebody and nobody at the airport will see you? If not impunity, what else can it be? That is why I'm saying that some people have kind of impunity to misbehave. And that is why you are saying this thing. As you are saying, it's true that, this is not something that somebody can just swallow and then vomit it out or whatever. So they might have gotten it through whatever negative mediums, but the point is that the fact that we are able to arrest you is a confirmation that we are working, and that is the simplest definition I always give to these things. That it tells you that now there's a new crop of leadership at Narcotics, and those leadership are seriously working. We are not going to joke with our job. And I remember when our appointment came, we wanted to appreciate or to go and thank the president. The president said he doesn't want thank you; he wants us to go and work. So that's what we are doing.
I see. But were you working at the Narcotics Control Commission previously?
Oh, no. I was once a police officer, not a narcotics.
I see. Because because you kept referencing the current leadership and so on, I just wanted to.
Okay.
So now that you inherited, what was happening over the years before you came? Because if you talk about renewed commitment and so on, for the past years, so what was happening? Well,
maybe in the past, you see, I'm pushed to believe that some people might have had their way through some years back. And that is why this kind of impunity keeps on going. You understand? Because if not that, look at the amount of parcels that you are seeing. This is about 73 parcels of cocaine. The question is, what will push you to baggage or to bag all these things and carry it up to the airport with the intention of exporting it? Because you think nobody will see it? You think you can just scan it and then it can just go through and you take it to the nearest destination that you are intending to send it to? Sometimes I find it very difficult to believe, to understand this. In fact, that night when I got to the airport and I was looking at them, I asked the suspect, so you think that we will not see this? Is that your mind?
But are you also looking for possible collaborators at the airport, this Swissport area?
My brother, our investigation is not a tabletop investigation.
Oh, okay. Yes. I'm only asking questions.
I get you. We are doing a very deep exercise. For that reason, some of the things I cannot tell you here.
That's fine.
But I can tell you that a thorough investigation is being done and is still ongoing. This matter is not just going to end on the table.
Indeed. I see. Because then maybe when you get the information about the country of origin, how it got into the country, then it will also take the boxes for
exactly, yeah, because if you understand the line of investigations, you can't just do a straight line investigation. Okay. Investigations are always connected, or one thing leads you to another thing. You understand? So it's not just about who is having it or who was going to ship it, or who was bagging it or who was packaging it. No. We always connect one step to the other, to look at even who brought it to you, where did that person also get it from, how did he also get it in that line. So we always try to track or trace the lines that are connected to each other, and that is the simplest thing I can say for now.
So, and let's go to now what has been described as the biggest cocaine bust in the history of this country, and that's what we're saying there.
The 350 million one.
It's $350 million street value worth of cocaine that you intercepted en route to Accra from the central region. This was sometime...
No, it was from
the western region.
And then it was intercepted in the
central region. This was about a month ago.
Yes. Yeah. It was not long after we took office.
So tell me a bit more about what we are seeing in this video. How did you get intelligence and interception of this?
Well, yes, this one was intelligence led, and it was, I think it was loaded in the tipper truck or something. Tipper truck, and we accosted it around. There's a place in Kipu Square. Is it Pedu or something? Pedu, yeah. So that was where we got them, and the persons on board of the vehicle were arrested. And as I speak to you now, they are also before the court. As I entered, I heard you asking, where do you keep, I had to give my senior, I was even asking that, what do you do?
This is 3,319.66 kilograms of cocaine. The biggest bust in this country's history.
Why surprised?
That's a good question, anyway. Don't be surprised.
Why shouldn't I be surprised? This is not normal.
The intake is going high.
So where are these?
No, you see, when you arrest, you don't just destroy your exhibits. You keep them until the matter comes to a close.
Okay.
Because they are, as senior, I mean, he knows the matter is before the court, so you can't just go and say that you have destroyed the exhibit that you have gathered.
Okay.
If tomorrow you have been asked to produce anything before the court, where do you find it? So we keep them until the court gives further and better directives.
You keep them where?
Sorry?
Where do you keep them?
Oh.
They have warehouses.
But we have exhibit rooms in our places.
No, but you know why I'm asking you this question. You see, we have a history in this country.
Okay, so let me...
Cocoa powder.
No, relax. Relax.
Are we lying?
Relax.
No, are we lying? So relax.
Oh, no, it has happened in the past.
But so he has a legitimate concern.
So let me say this. You see, when it comes to the security agencies, especially those who do arrests, the BNI, sorry, now the NIB now, and then the police, Narcotics, and others. Once you do arrest, you have what we call exhibit rooms or exhibit stores. Because anybody that you may be arrested may have something on him or her that you need to keep. Okay. So all these agencies that I've mentioned, we all have what we call exhibit rooms or stores. And it's not one. So normally, depending on the size of the thing, it will tell which room or which store to take it to.
I see. But this one, this largest bust in our history, you understand, it came through the shores.
Oh. Some of the further details that you want, I'll prefer not to speak directly to them because, investigation is still ongoing. The matter is before the court. We are still
came by sea or came by air.
The point is
that's not too hard to say.
Well, I understand him, but the point is that we are still investigating. Because you see, the people that you sometimes arrest, they will tell you they are not those who own it.
I see.
So we can't always be giving every details out. Or else we are still doing investigation, which may lead to something else.
No, that's a fair point. But I'm only checking to confirm the reports.
What do we know is that?
The question I'm asking about whether it came by sea is one that was reported. So is it the case that this largest consignment in our history came by sea?
You see, the fact of this very case that we are all seeing is that we arrested it not at the seaport or whatever. We arrested it on land at, in Cape Coast.
Okay.
Yeah, to be specific. So if I tell you that it came from sea, then the point is that why didn't you arrest it? At the sea point. Do you understand my point?
Okay.
So that's why I'm being very specific that we arrested the thing in Cape Coast, Pedu.
That's correct.
Correct. So based on that, that is why we are doing further investigations to ascertain how and everything.
Okay. But do you have instances where you've traced the means of transport of cocaine to the sea?
Intelligence comes every day. Almost, I can say every day, if I'm not mistaken. You understand? And various intels, as you keep reading them, you see different things that we are still monitoring, we are tracking, among other things. You understand? So, and you see, let's not, when you say the sea or the ports, one may think that, once you say the sea, then it's just the Tema port or maybe the Takrady port. Okay. But don't forget that there are different points that people are having access to the sea without using the main port.
Yes.
So I cannot rule out the fact that certain, evil things may be happening at some point that we may not have our people there because it's not an approved route I mean, to assess the sea. You understand me?
Good.
Good. That's why I'm trying to avoid that part of the question that you're asking.
Well, I have a former naval officer sending me this. He says, good morning, Alfred. Most of these drugs come in through our shores. Sometimes the fisher folk are used as conduits to bring them ashore. My years of service in the Navy opened my eyes on how our fisher folk bring cocaine and other illicit drugs into the country through our various landing beaches.
Okay.
That's the coastal communities.
Okay.
Alfred, let the narcotic boss understand that it comes through the coastal communities before being transported on land between regions and towns.
Okay. So another fact, I will not dispute whatever he is saying. That's why I just said to you that we pick intels almost every day. And the intel sometimes will let you know or understand that some, even unapproved routes, these fisher folks, they are not using the main, what do you call it, Tamaport or Takrady Port. You understand? They are using other, landing sites which are not even proper approved beaches, but they have access because of the kind of canoes or whatever that they are using. They can land anywhere. You understand?
Right.
So such people, I wouldn't dispute the fact that they may be able to go to the sea and get some substance and then deliver it at any point that they think that their canoes can access. I cannot dispute that. But that's why I keep telling you that we pick intels almost every day. And some intels can lead you to some of these things, which I know is very true.
Let's see. But have we started testing the purity level of these?
Oh, no, we test them. You see, once you are going to court, we can, when the dog sniffs them and it confirms that it's something, no report is generated from that. So you always need to get a proper report from the testing point to be able to attach it as your evidence to court. So we test almost everything that we find.
I see. But now that you talk about intelligence, that obviously influences a certain response mechanism, right? And I don't expect that you will detail the response mechanism, for instance, with the intelligence that you have that some fisher folk are used to transport the drugs. But it's one that it's on your radar. You've put some response mechanism in place to address this.
You see, the kind of leader that we have, who is the Director General, is someone who is very proactive. He's very proactive. Any information that comes to him, immediately he wants you to act on it. Immediately he wants you to act on it. So things that comes to his table or to our desk are not things that we play with at all. Any intel that we pick, immediately we detail men to first of all go to confirm it, and then we come back to plan on what to do next.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see. How do you arrive? There was a question from Dr. Kwame Etienne. He says, I'm curious to know how they arrive at the street value of this cocaine they bust.
Okay, so I think they use the weight and everything to do assessment. And so, for instance, those pallets the very earlier one that you showed, I think each one is between 13 to 16,000 USD.
This one?
No. The very first one that you showed, those ones who were on the table.
On the table. Ones, no, that's what you intercepted this week.
Yeah.
This one. So let's go back.
This one that's something like between 13 to 16,000 USD per one.
No, per slab.
Yeah.
So that thing was either one
of that. If you lift one and then they weigh it, I think one will cost around that.
13,000
to 16. In between 13 to 16,000
USD. So what mechanism have you put in place to ensure that? If you're putting these values to what we are seeing, one, to make sure that money is tempting. We've seen cocaine get lost or get miraculously transformed into some other substances under the watch of...
Not of NACOC.
No, under the watch of security personnel in this country.
Okay, yeah.
Okay?
All right.
So, how do we trust you that you have these busted cocaine consignments in your warehouses with all these high street values, and we trust that it will be there, and you are not doing some nefarious activities, trying to get some of them out at the blind side of all of us? Okay, so the word is integrity.
the kind of leaders that are before NACOC today, leading Narcotics Control Commission, are men of integrity. That's the simplest answer I can give you. And they are men that will not, bend any curve.
Well, Senor, let me begin at this point. And getting to know all this, I want us to establish the basis and, tick a few boxes about the bust that we have seen. And maybe before you come in, what has led to these last 8 to 9 weeks, the major cocaine bust that we've had in this country? What has changed at NACOC? What has led to this about four major busts?
First of all, leadership has changed. That is the first thing. And like I said earlier, the kind of people that the president brought there were men that he knew very well they can give him the results. In fact, the Director General was once how do you call that one? The security, the military officers who are attached to the chief of staff office. There's a name for them. Is it military attaché or something? Yeah. At the presidency, some other president, President Mohammed's first term. Yeah.
Okay.
So in between 2013 to 16. No, then Colonel Mante.
No, it was Major.
Okay, very well. So based on that, the president saw his way of doing things. And I remember yesterday we were having a discussion and he said something to me that he said that the commander-in-chief doesn't speak twice. And when he speaks once, the next thing is action and nothing else. So based on his dealings and how the president saw him, that is how come he gave him this kind of role to come and lead. And I can assure you that under his leadership, nothing. This kind of story that you keep raising, that we've had instances whereby cocaine turned into what do you call it?
That's not me raising. That's what happened.
I know. That instance, the good thing is that one, it didn't happen in NACOC, and it will never happen in NACOC. The second thing also is that under this tenure of John Dramani Mahama, you will not hear such, should I say, cock and bull stories that a substance which was kept in an exhibit room fell out or left the room and came back and became something else.
We can trust you for that?
Oh, of course. That one, you can seriously count on us because, who is going to compromise his role? The word I normally use is that compromise is not in our dictionary. You think I will go down to that extent? I would prefer to be poor than to be allowing anybody to come and spoil my integrity.
But how do you destroy these? The ones that after you're done
we
with the
bend them.
investigation?
We bend them. Normally it's done at this place, Bondasi or something. Yeah, we bend them.
You bend them. Malaba, that's a question you asked about how it is.
Yeah, but it's the timing. He says that it's after the court case.
After
because they are exhibits now, and I agree with him that they are exhibits. So after the case, in fact, the court will direct in the final judgment how they should be destroyed. So we just need to be policing them too. We don't know. So your questions are right. They are sure that what they are doing is good, but we don't know whether they will relapse. And so we also need to be on their toes as citizens, to ensure that all these things are intact before the judgment is given.
But Professor Abdallah is asking you to take us through the standard protocols for distraction, the standard operating procedure for distraction.
Prof. Anyway, it's a good question. Well, as my senior just said, the court will direct that the exhibits after the case, ABCD should happen. So, for instance, if the court says that we should go and burn it, and like I said, it will be packed from the exhibit store that it finds itself now under an escort. We have our armed men, we have some seconded police officers also to us, and then we escort it to where we are going to destroy it. You get there, there's a way that they bring them together and apply some, sometimes if petrol or something that can burn it easily or faster on it, and then the armed men will be there until the thing is totally destroyed, and then we leave.
So how does all this strike you? These major busts we've seen over the last couple of months, and then the answers we're getting from Mr. Chumbarima this morning.
I will come to that, but just to follow up to, I would advise, I don't know if it's part of your protocol, that in promoting transparency, you invite the media across this whole process.
The burning time?
Not just the burning.
Oh, the burning, yes.
No. From from weighing so that we know that the 350, whatever kilos that you said you were talking about, is that the same? Because if somebody pulls one and puts something and coconte powder to replace it, it can also solve some people's problem. The money you are mentioning is not a small joke.
I get you. It's true.
People, when it gets to this point, you don't think about what will happen to you.
Yeah.
When you sniff it. I think people will be thinking about how they can get money out of it. I was in this country, it was in 2005. I went to a nightclub. One of the very few times in those days I was going to a nightclub because we had a client who was hosting us. I go to the bathroom and I saw people sniffing cocaine. At least it was a white substance. The only thing that made sense to me was that it was cocaine. Okay. I come and rush to the bar to some guy who was a big man. I mean, in the media, and I thought that if I tell him, I will get something happen. I was a very young man. I didn't have any influence, nothing. And the guy looks at me and says, "So." Fast forward, in the past few years, the person has been a very big man. You understand? Look, there are people with an attitude towards this thing that is at total variance with what you are doing. They can look in my face and say, "So?" You look at a young man who is petrified by the fact that he's seen people sniffing cocaine, and he comes to you, and you say, "So?" So there are plenty shows that has happened. What is very amazing about this, and before I ever go to that one again, I must commend them. I know the people at Narcotics. I know General Mante, Brigadier General Mante. He's a man of integrity.
Right.
All right. Jum, I've also known quietly for quite a while now. These are people of integrity. I'm not surprised we are where we are, but it brings a very big question to play. How come is it that there were no busts, major busts being seen in this country till now? It's an important question, though. The other thing I want to ask is, how will people have that much confidence to bring so much? If it is new government and we want to test the waters, you won't bring this quantity. Common sense. I'm like, you try, maybe bring something that's $1 million value. See if it will get through. If you go to money, they understand the process. And then you. But this government is just 3 months or so, almost 4 months now, eh?
Yeah.
And then people have that much confidence to bring this quantity of drugs through our shores, either via air or via sea, is still our shore. Because we are not producing this cocaine in Ghana. My brother, before God and man, I really wonder what has happened in the past. Let's have an honest conversation about this thing. It's not politics.
Yeah.
People not just stand up and in one morning start bringing major volumes like this. It tells you that they have a structure and a system, a network, a support system that gives them grounds to believe they can continue to do what they are doing. That gives them grounds to believe that they won't get busted. And tells us that this thing is not something that's happening now. It's something that has been nurtured from the past. You know, let's just be honest about it. So what has happened? The cocaine that may have come into the country, on the back of the estimations we'll be making backwards with these volumes, what happened to it? Are we consuming it in our country? Or we are just a transit point? What is the end game for all these drugs? I think we need some education from Narcotics. All right? I'm a parent. We are all parents here. If we are not parents, we are uncles. We are serious citizens. We are in positions of trust. I need to understand whether these drugs end up on our streets or they are actually just aimed at transit from our country. And I think you have enough information to be able to give us guidance so that we are all guided and we'll get a bit more aware. Some of these so-called international schools that the elites in this country carry their children to, you don't know what's happening there. The only thing we used to know in secondary schools was weed. I know so. Tapping on watch you. Now so say yeah. If you are crossing to this, we don't know what's going to happen next. So we already deal with opioid.
Now it's red.
They call it red. Is opioid the same thing as the red?
Yeah, the same thing.
I don't even know how it looks. First there was codeine and
no, it's how do you call the
Something came before this one.
Oh, it is
tramadol and codeine.
It's tramadol.
Yeah.
But you know the tramadol, the permitted milligram is 50 and 100.
Okay. Yeah.
And anything beyond that is not permissible.
Okay.
And now we are having people, for whatever reasons, have gotten the 225 and 250 mg into the system. And you know one funny thing? When you pick, let's say, a sachet of it like this, and you look at it, the one that we intercepted at Temaport, that is also almost like a month ago, a 40-feet container, which they said was transiting to Niger, but we doubted it. When you open the box and pull out the items or the drugs, you reckon that the only thing that you can find on it is the name and then the manufacturing country, supposed manufacturing country. But it doesn't have any manufacturer. So you not see that Chimberima Company Limited did this. But you can see manufactured in India, manufactured in, let's say, Ghana.
So we are prophesying that you own a pharmaceutical company in future.
Interesting. So, but then now you have a hold at least on how this red gets into the country.
Oh yeah, I mean that one it was intercepted at the Temaport.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
no. So I'm saying he has to give us some answers.
It's important.
These drugs, do they land here as destinations or transit or a part of both? What is the data that you have on actual consumption? Besides, we are running the bus. I agree. You know, I have had some, because of the Forgework case, I had an opportunity to research and interact with various people from the police to NACOG and to understand a bit of this. I mean, I want to understand, this is definitely not a controlled delivery. It won't be sitting here by now, am I right? Yeah, so exactly where is this thing aimed for? Is it for Ghana as a market? And are we seeing a rise in cocaine consumption as a country? Or is it the case that you are under-resourced to actually capture that data? We need this information.
It is important indeed. Mr. Brahma?
Yes, sir.
You want to answer this question?
Okay, so some of the drugs, when you get them, you are made to believe that, you are made to believe that it's transiting to another country. For instance, the red that I mentioned of earlier, 40-feet container full of red. And what they mixed with some few other drugs, but majority, about 70-80% of it was the red.
40-foot container?
Yeah, 40 feet. Okay, and then they said that it's going to Niger. The question is, how sure are we that when we put this 40 feet on the vehicle to be traveled all the way to Niger, it will really go to Niger? Because the funny thing is that we don't escort such vehicles when they are going. Once it's being cleared from the port, that's it. It's left with the driver in the mix to take it to whatever place that they are taking it to. We don't give it any police or narcotic or whatever escort to make sure that you are really going to Niger and you have entered Niger and delivered it to the particular company or person who imported it.
I'm told there are trackers, they can see them from the port while they are moving.
Yes, but you see...
Those are location trackers. Let's get it correct. Okay. Those are geolocation trackers. Now, whether somebody breaks the seal, enters into the container, takes a part, drops it, and finds a way to reseal it or not, you can't capture that. If you even get to the port, the exit port, which is say Paga, in this instance, and the seal is broken, depending on how corrupt the officials there, nobody will record the fact that it's broken. There's nothing that remotely captures it. It's not like something that has a pressure sensor that when you open it, there's a sign that there's a shift in pressure, for which reason something has gone wrong. You won't see it. As for the track, you see that it has gone. If I stop in Kumasi and offload a part, you can't do focal. And this is big money game. We must admit our system is corrupt. We have a very corrupt system across. It's not politicians. I'm talking about the citizens. We are corrupt people. We are corrupt. We have to admit. So there are very few people with integrity in this country. So even you meet an officer on the street, how will he act? He may shout 1, 2, 3, but in that process, largely he's negotiating. You understand? Very few people are true to this country. So if somebody breaks a seal and goes in and takes something, and the money involved, you may be able to pay your way all the way out of here. Let's not run away from it.
That's the reality check, that we want to know.
Yeah.
Yes, I know you're limited in giving out some kind of information, but then again, the question about what the aim of this drugs, the cocaine specifically, is it one in transit or meant to be sold in this country? Do you answer all of that?
Well, those that we have arrested, mostly you reckon that they were planning to take it out of the country.
Yeah.
That is what I can say. Most of the arrests that we have made in the last few days or weeks, all that you get to know is that they were you see that the very first one that you saw, those black ones, they were packaging it, to send it abroad. So it means that let's even presume that they got it through an unapproved point of the sea.
Yes.
And they brought it to a particular home or house, let's say in Accra here. They came to, repackage, because you see, you can't transport that very big ones that you are seeing in those sacks. So they do that repackaging into the smaller ones. And then that is what they put in boxes or whatever, and then try to ship it with some other things. They will put sometimes the plantain or something, just to deceive you that you will not see what is really under it. And they will tell you, they are made of maybe, these are plantains going to Europe or cassava going to Europe and those things, and then they will mix it with it. But there was one that we intercepted, but there was no suspect with it. It has been packaged in something like Milo sachet or something. Yeah, the way the sachets are.
But
in that form.
Definitely, it will be outside the country. It will be like sending the drugs out. Because the market value of the drugs in Ghana is not enough. Who can buy these drugs here? So they will be targeting the European markets where the value is high. Definitely.
See, there are a number of questions. This one here from Dr. Jones says, if there were routine checks that led to the latest bust, which later needed K9 teams, is the K9 team not part of the routine, especially at the Swiss spots?
No, the K9 goes, you see, there's little challenge that we have is that we don't have too many dogs. So we can't use, sometimes, the dogs, they have to rest a bit. So they go there, they come in, and then you take some there as well. When there is something and they need them there urgently, the distance between our headquarters and the airport is just about 2 minutes drive. We go in quickly. So it's not, we can't, the number of dogs that we have.
How much is a K9?
I can't give you an offered price, but
send a message and let's get a K9 price. Look, what is happening here? Yes, it's good we are hearing that. I won't say it's good, but we are safer to hear that it's in transit. But very soon, as it is transiting, it is also dropping.
Oh, some will drop.
You understand? As it is transiting, it is dropping. The middle class in this country has grown. The appetite of people have gone up. Let's face it. First, when we take our school, we get our Madingo and something.
It's fine.
Whatever it is, people take us up record. Now, when you go, middle class people, they want single malt. They don't even want red label again. They don't want black label. Very soon, our children will start stealing their parents' money, and they'll start sniffing cocaine. It will become a big problem. So I would advise that all of us as a country, corporate Ghana, if we all have to support Narcotics, for them to be resource enough to help protect us, we should do it.
Of course.
If this matter is so important and you don't have enough dogs, we must well start contributing towards buying dogs. So. I'm serious. I want to buy a dog.
No, of course. I mean, we're very grateful.
And I think the Three Foundation can look at this, because this is easily the most productive, or it's the most productive security agency so far. The others are also doing well. I agree, but their impact in the last 3 months is remarkable, and all of us must rise up to the occasion and support them. So get us the price of a dog.
I'll do that.
And let everybody know the price of a dog.
I'll do that for you.
If the dog will help you fight it, and that's one of the things that you are not well resourced, let's all try. Because it is the future of our children that is at stake. It is the stability of our state that is at stake. It is the risk for the underground economy to take charge of our governments that's at stake. There's a reason why it is today, it is in this period that we are catching people. We must think about it. How many people have been changed at Narcotics? How many people? Just leadership. There's people at the back were always there. So what has changed? Why weren't they catching the people before? How much of this cocaine has dropped here already? It's just a matter of time. And we'll be just living with junkies all around. And we think that we are raising children.
So, but you see, the matter of the internal checks as well. Because I know in the last few weeks you arrested a Nigerian at Oyarifa. Oyarifa, you know, it's same with cocaine related.
This was about $2 million or so.
$2 million worth of cocaine. You were able to get in his house.
Okay, so it was not in his. I mean, the very house that he resides in with his family. But he had another house that he keeps, I mean, the items in.
I see. So how much of these internal checks are going on?
A lot. And like I said, our men are really on the ground this time around. The motivation that they needed, one promise that General gave to them during our first staff debate was that he is going to provide leadership. He's going to provide support on things that they were lacking, things that they needed that they were not giving, to be able to work and work well. And in fact, it's not permitted for them to be talking, but if they were to be talking or be calling onto your show, they can tell you that, or they can attest to the fact that in the last few weeks or days that we took over there, they've seen changes and they've seen proactiveness in the way things are being done. But now, anything that they come to us to ask for, if we can provide it, the next minute you have it. Yesterday we were going around and we got to one point of our unit at the port, the port area. And the gentlemen were, they have an air condition that is, I think it's faulty. They need some small amount to be able to fix it. But it looks like, I think they put in, as usual, put in a memo to request for it, and then they've not received, so they were informing the Director General. Immediately there, he just removed money from his pocket and they give it to them. Go and do it. So that's the kind of leadership that NACOC, is experiencing now. Proactiveness, and not anything delayed to stampede the kind of progress that we want to make at that institution.
I see. There was a question about the specific charges that these suspects have been presented before the court.
That one, pardon me, I can't get all of them, give it to you. But it's mostly being in possession of, narcotics drugs without the permission of the minister. Because, you need a license from the minister to be able to obtain or to have certain drugs with you. So being in possession of a narcotic drug alone is an offense. I think Section 37 or so of the Narcotic Act, among other things. And I see, from my background as a former police officer, nobody will charge you with one charge and take it to court. For instance, if you went to steal.
But you say possession.
Sorry?
You say possession of...
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
We arrested you being in possession of a narcotic drug.
There are 3 offenses: possession, use, and sale. All are offenses.
Yeah. So, and you see, funny thing is that nobody will charge you with one charge and then take you. Senior is here, he knows this. If, for instance, like I was giving the example earlier, if police arrest you for stealing, once you entered, let's say, somebody's room to steal, you will first be charged with unlawful entry before even the stealing will come. So by the time you realize, if one leaves, the other will hold you.
You see, in tech, is this one here says, number of messages. This one says, I agree with Senyor's sentiments, and I'm a parent. He says, I come face to face with the realities that Senyor is talking about. Does Senyor also know that some of these places that he mentions has a tacit approval of some officials?
Places like what?
You know, you mentioned these nightclubs and those other places as well. Whether he's asking whether your search for the use of such drugs extends to such places.
Our search.
Narcotics.
Oh yeah, we do. In fact, about 2 days ago, we conducted an intel on one nightclub, which I will not mention.
And what did you find?
Oh, I will not tell you for now.
No, I mean, if it was an open operation.
Oh no, you see, I know you the media, you always want. I mean, the very juicy.
It's not just media.
It's not just media.
We also part of the
it's not about us.
Okay, so
I do this for the people.
Okay, so relax.
Yes.
I get you. Yeah. We had a kind of a report or something that they deal with narcotics. That club deals with narcotics. So we sent an intel there to check, and we had some kind of confirmation, but we need to do some more works to be able to ascertain how, I mean, the quantity and everything, so that we can strike.
I see.
So we do it. I mean, it's not just the nightclub. Even those who are selling in some kind of kiosks or whatever in some corners. And just about a week or so ago, we did some raid at Medina. The Red Co Flat area and some few areas in Medina. We did some raid over there. Yeah.
What kind of drugs are we talking about?
Over there?
Yeah.
Well, we saw weed, we took weed, we took some small heroin and others. Yeah.
Charlie, I bet you.
No, I'm just going to take your
that was a very small quantity.
Final one on this, Senor.
Okay.
I mean, it's just about how the extent of the problem we're dealing with, and the kind of responses we should be seeing from the Narcotics Control Commission. Quickly,
look, and
other agencies for that matter.
See, the Narcotics has been relatively more transparent than we've seen in the past. They're being forthcoming, and I think that we should encourage that. You need to communicate with us, and the more you talk to the public, the easier it is for them to also share information with you. There is a place not far from where we are right now, and we all know it. On Sunday evenings, there's always weed smoking in that particular restaurant. And you see, there's weed smoking in that restaurant. Okay. And I think that it's not information you don't have. We have to agree, and they need to understand what their position on narcotics is on things like weed. Is this something you guys are allowing? Because you all know where the thing is. If now it's being done publicly, and I can enter a restaurant and clearly smell weed, it's not a good thing. The people who are listening know. And today is Saturday, tomorrow Sunday evening, it will be happening. All right? And it's encouraged. It's not far from here. It's not far from the police headquarters. So if we all know it and we watch it, what kind of country are we nurturing? If you want to legalize it, then let us know you are legalizing it. If you're not legalizing it, let's see proper action from you. I'm really petrified by heroin getting into a place like Red Co. All right? Red Co is a middle class area. It's not a very high up and
well, the slums.
Yeah, but who is going to be taking heroin? Who's going to get the money to pay for heroin? Heroin is not as cheap as weed. Am I right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So if people are not going to start injecting themselves with these, we really have a drug problem on our hands. Red, we have not already been able to fully nip in the bud. Now we are seeing heroin. Then cocaine. Very soon it will be stopping over. Engage us. And I think that the public must be forthcoming. As parents, you see things. Report them. If it's your children and their friends, it's not that you're going to get them to be caught. They can just help the security officials to be able to nab the ring that is bringing these things to our children. We shouldn't sit on information and think that we are protecting. We are not protecting our children. We are destroying their lives.
Yeah.
Everybody, when you see something, say something. Reach out to it. Do you guys have a public helpline? Contact center.
We just arranged for one immediately we took over because there wasn't.
It's a very great initiative. It's quite unfortunate that it's taking us all this while, but you must have one. Have a very friendly, well-trained people who can to freelance shipping. Yes, fine. And people can anonymously call.
Yeah.
All right, and then get people who they can actually share relevant information with.
Yeah.
These things will trickle down into our homes. It will trickle down into our neighborhoods. It will trickle down into our families, our villages. Everybody will interact with it. And so when you get information, you can connect Mr. A to Mr. B. Mr. B will be bigger than Mr. A. Do they see? Eventually, you'll be able to nip this thing in the bud. People have destroyed the black communities by just trying to bring drugs into those neighborhoods. To date, in America, those neighborhoods have not recovered.
Yeah.
The black population is backward relatively. Please, we have to defend the future of this country, and it's significantly dependent on you guys. And all of us out there, any resource you can bring to bear to help NACOC go forward. You can't be having AC problems. Your DG should not be moving money from his personal pocket to repair air conditioning. You understand? The salaries of your people must definitely be high. Because if people are looking at $350 million and I say I will give you $100,000 and your salary is 2,000 cedis, my brother, at some point somebody will break. So let's make sure that NACOC is properly resourced. And I will beg Tree Foundation, with all we are seeing, if you can do something and lead the charge for us to raise some funding, raise some kind of support for NACOC, I think it will be a great, great, great idea. Well, You've done it before, and I believe in you.
Well, it's obviously a consideration that with the likes of stakeholders like you, we would definitely take it into advisement and also consideration. It's for the greater good.
That's
okay, but there are a number of messages. This one here says that, let's be clear, some children are buying vapes online. So do you know this?
Vapes is it's e-cigarettes, like e-cigarettes. Yes, you know.
So that's fine. Then he mentions this is
unbelievable.
A senior medical officer in this country, so I'm not going to mention, but he says shisha pens were available years back in shops. He mentions a number of them, which he says I should make available to you. You are aware?
Which one? The shisha thing?
Yes.
It's not illegal.
Well, it's not, but it's not that what they add to it is what we. You know, some apply the weed and sometimes.
Really?
Okay. They do that. Now, he says, I would recommend that they collaborate and support and get support from the USDA.
We are already with them anyway.
Yeah.
With the DEA. Okay. Has any official of NACOC been arrested or questioned because of the lax attitude that your guest seems to refer to in the past years before they came in?
Because of what? I don't get a question.
He says, we kept asking questions about what has been happening over the years. Yes, and why we are saying what we are saying now. And you say it's all about leadership. And he's asking if you've questioned or arrested any persons in your
since
place.
we came, we have not arrested any. We have done arrests, but not nothing or none of them is in connection with NACOC staff.
I see. Now, and very finally, we need to round up on this. It says the porous borders matter has come up for conversation.
Yeah.
Now, that's another area as well that you see that drugs get into this country. What are you doing about that? Quick one.
I mean, you know, first of all, it comes to numbers. We need to increase our numbers to be able to get to all these points. And you know, one funny thing is that if you assess or you see here to be the porous point and you come to seal it, immediately before you realize they go to create another
that's all.
another porous point, which you have to then organize yourself and go and seal that one too. But all the same, we will not rest. We will continue to do all that is necessary to ensure that we can cover all that we need to cover.
Well, Mr. Chumbarima, there's quite a number of messages for you, some of which is in intelligence related, volunteering information for you.
I mean, those ones here, you can gather them for me later.
Yes, which we will make available to you. Yeah. Professor Abdullah again is asking why you don't have periodic updates. And he's recommending that I should be bringing you to the studio at least once every quarter to come and tell us what is happening.
At least now, one thing that we have decided to do, or under the directive of the Director General, he has asked that we do, is that every arrest that we make must be made known to the public. his principle is that we are serving Ghanaians, or we are there because of Ghanaians. So we can't be doing things, behind the curtain, and those that we are representing are not aware of what we are doing. And that is why almost every arrest that we make, if it's done, let's say today, by the next morning or so, or afternoon, it's in the news. It's in the news, yeah. So we will continue to keep you posted, or the Ghanaian populace posted on everything that we are doing. Yeah.
Okay, but when Reverend Tim Fojo made this allegation, you got involved in the investigation, is it not? What was the latest on that?
Which of them?
The one that said they had intelligence that there's a flight full of cocaine.
No mind.
What's up?
His matter, I don't want to be. I don't want to be entertaining him again. Whatever he was saying was not true, so don't mind him. That's the simplest definition I'll give.
Alfred, I don't know why.
Wait. Have you closed the
that matter is with the national security. They were those dealing with it, so I will not delve into that. But what I can say is that whatever he said was not the case.
In the past, when people had evidence, when people had evidence, did they keep it close to their chest?
I haven't finished. Huh? So, what role did the Narcotics play?
Alfred,
why do you want to entertain this guy's matter again?
No.
We need to know.
We don't need to be.
No. No, it's not the matter of shine. It's just you led the inspection of the vessel.
Of course, yeah.
He led it.
I was there.
He was there himself.
I was there that the flight was inspected. And it's not. That's something that is not true. You see, I don't want us to be entertaining. I was there, and like he confirmed, I was there. The very day that the flights were
he landed, he was waiting for it.
I was there. But it was my first ever exercise. I am in charge of operations or enforcement control and then elimination. So, which in simple terms is operations. I was there that day. Nothing happened. And this very flight, I have...
This flight that we are seeing on the
screen. Listen, my brother, personally, I took a picture of this very flight. A video of it. I can show it to you, Sana. Personally, that very day. And the fact is, which day did he come to say that, he has seen something of this sort? I don't want us to be discussing, but it's just a
video and all were done even before the allegation.
No, but it's okay.
Yes.
No, we are on
16th March.
Let's finish it, and then whatever you show. So you were there. You saw. This was your first operation at the airport. What did you see?
One is, we didn't find anything positive. The result is negative. Negative means that we didn't find the cocaine or whatever that you want.
So you see the way they're picking the samples. It's not as though they are looking for bags.
No.
They want to even see whether it has even carried cocaine at any point. So did any drop anything? So even though you may have landed without the cocaine, are there traces or anything? That's why you're doing it.
Yeah, well, I want to hear him.
You want to hear me?
Yes. I asked a specific question, and you were answering before Senor came in.
Yes,
what you saw, what operation exactly did you conduct on this plane that we are seeing?
Okay, so as you can see on your screens, there's a combination of security officials. Aviation security is one, Narcotics is there, customs is there, national security is there, NIB or BNI is there. So when information comes, sometimes it's not always based on intel. We can just decide to go on any flight at all to do rummaging. Or sometimes we do it based on intel. Either one is permissible. This very flight as you are seeing, if I did the video had been taken in a different dimension, you would have seen me standing there.
Okay.
We got the info, we went there very early in the morning. In fact, that day, I remember I got to the airport about 5 minutes to 6 o'clock in the morning. Was when I got to the airport.
I see.
And then when the team were ready, we went there. The crew, when it happens that way, the crew cannot leave the flight.
Right.
Until we are done with our scanning. So they were there. All the agencies did whatever they are supposed to do. We went there with our K9 dogs, 2 of them that day. And the search was done in such a way that you don't put all the 2 on board immediately.
Okay.
One goes in first, do all the necessary sniffings and whatever, come out, and then the other was also taken in. Both came out, and like I said, the results was negative. And for that reason, we are done. We couldn't find or we didn't find anything narcotics. So then the customs also played their role and see and check whatever they are also supposed to check so far as their job description is concerned. NIB will do their part. Everybody will play their part. So you see the customer officer kneeling down there. If I show you my videos, and you see that when he was kneeling down there, I was. You were there. Yeah. So that is it. There was nothing on it. So when later when I heard his story, I was a bit lost. I thought it was even a different thing that has happened that we didn't know. Until when I got to know that, when I saw his letter that he wrote to the committee asking that the NACOC, NIB, and others should report to the committee and come and brief them. Then I saw the flight numbers that he was asking. So quickly I went to my phone. I saw that it's not the same flight that I took video of. Yeah. So I checked that and Antonov 12B, and I said, but this is the flight that I took. Yeah. But this has happened like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and he's now talking about it as if something evil has happened. You see, sometimes we all get information, my brother. My advice to my junior brother, who is the MP, is that where we get such information and we are dealing with it, we should be careful. But sometimes you see people report to you on emotions. That is why if you are not careful, you make a mistake. So yes, it's good to listen. It's good to take any intel that somebody thinks he or she is giving you. But be careful with it and know how to handle it. Don't just spill out.
Mr. Jumberma, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. I didn't want to go on that time, but you have taken me there.
Oh, no, what you said is okay. It's on point. There's nothing.
The reason why it's important is that it wouldn't serve the good of the people of Ghana if such issues, when they come, we just deal with it, we brush it off and move on to something else.
It's not brushed off. I mean, it's still before the national security. Absolutely. Like I said. So, since they are doing something later and it's not NACOC handling directly, I would want them to...
Because a number of things happening now, and the tendency of we just glossing over it and moving on to the next bit is high.
It's high, okay.
Because we've seen in this country, when the national security was accused of stealing some 10,000 CDs.
10,000.
Governor of the central bank. We've moved on as if nothing really ever happened. But this is, we're talking about that borders on integrity. And then this one as well.
No,
it is not in my place to say. It's not in my place to say. But I thank you for coming.
Anyway, thank you too.
Alexander Chumberima is the Deputy Director General of the Narcotics Control Commission. And I would want to apologize to a number of our viewers. I have 1,023 of your messages to Narcotics Control Commission. That tells us how important this matter is to you. And so I am, together with the production team, we'll find ways of...
I mean, the intel
we'll distill the intel ones and give it to you. And then also make some time again in the coming months, and then we would engage. It is for the greater good. Okay, let the people know a bit more, because the ones that you can't answer for, the sensitivity of it and the intelligence related, we are not going to push you.
Of course,
Okay, but what you have said to us this morning may have answered the questions that people have on their minds.
Very well.
So we'll try and do this as regular as possible. Lawyer Martin Pepo is with us on Zoom. Maybe before I let you go, we'll have a quick one on this. Counsel, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hello?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning.
Great.
Let me put on my video.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Before Mr. Alexander Chumberima leaves us, just a quick one on this Narcotics Control Commission conversation, and then also the recent drug bust that we have seen. Just briefly.
Okay. So I would say that it's good that the NACOC made these arrests in these recent times. We just hope that they will keep their guard on and not get complacent, right? So that people can pass through with these dangerous drugs. So they should just keep their guard on. It's early days yet for us to start celebrating. No, we can't celebrate now. We have to go, a distance before we can celebrate that everything is, back on, right? So that's what I can say for now. And as usual, let me greet Sofia Kufuya Santua, that man checking Taki Teku through the second, and Domahine. Of course, Tobe Afede, yes, for their bold stance and, speaking up to public matters when it mattered most. And I hope that the rest of Ghanaians will take a cue from it, that we should always speak up. We shouldn't just concentrate on what we get for ourselves and our families. Such a selfish attitude won't help us. It won't take us far. If JM is governing well, we'll say so. If it's not governing well, we'll equally say so. Don't look at just your stomach. The stomach politics is too much.
Council, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the initial thoughts. And I see how you addressed. I think the temperature where you are is really cold. I think it's below 9 degrees from what we're seeing. And so for the viewers, kindly permit Lawyer Martin Pebo for his outfit this morning where he is. It's quite cold. But we're live as well on the Voice of London radio in the heart of the city of London. So yeah, that's where Lawyer Martin Pebo is doing the listening. Yes, quick one before we go.
Greeting to Senior. It's unfortunate that it didn't take us along when he was going. So. But just, I mean, my last point. I mean, you can deduce that all these happenings and this, I mean, arrest upon arrest that you are hearing or seeing confirms one thing: the political will of the president. We can't rule out that.
Yes.
The political will of the president confirming that his second coming, as Ghanaians has permitted, is something that is into work and nothing else. And Ghanaians are really going to enjoy his tenure. And anything that they expect, or he told them that he was going to do, is what they are going to experience, and they have started experiencing. I share the position of my senior that, I mean, it's early days yet that we don't have to be jubilating too much, but at least we can jubilate small. That's something that's
we must jubilate.
well,
so that when the blastings time come to, we will blast.
That's fine. That's fine.
We'll keep tabs on you.
Sure. I mean, it's fine.
And keep the steam because it's important for the greater good of the Ghanaian people. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. All right.
Mr. Chumbarima for joining us. And that leads us to our next conversation. You heard Lamat Pebo touch on a number of things that is happening specific to the judiciary. And we'll have the Ghana Bar Association Head of Public Affairs also joining us in a bit. Xavier Kuji is also a private legal practitioner. But this week, as we saw, the president acting upon the advice of the Council of State after the establishment of a prima facie case against the Chief Justice, Gertrude Esaba Tokono, suspended the Chief Justice and established a 5-member committee as enshrined in Article 146(10)A of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. Well, this is the first time we have gotten to this point in our judicial history that the Chief Justice has been suspended. There's been a number of petitions against previous Chief Justices by individuals, but this particular provision in the Constitution has not been triggered before. Maybe that's why this generated this much of a conversation. That's where we're taking it from. But the minority in Parliament addressed the press on this particular development, asking for a number of things, including an immediate reinstatement of the Chief Justice. But then again, is this the end of the road, really, for the Chief Justice, or it is the process at play? That's the conversation that we're having. But this is the minority earlier this week. Take a look.
Any attempt to pack the judiciary with politically compliant judges will be challenged to the fullest extent of the law. The legal fraternity, civil society, and all defenders of democracy, and women, I am actually more worried about the fact that our daughters should feel threatened at this stage, because it tells you that you cannot aspire as a woman to get to this level. Women, please take note. Do not sleep for John Mahama to redirect state institutions under his cloak. Women, it is your time to rise up. We are asking that any attempt by President Mahama to pack the judiciary with politically compliant judges should be challenged, and we are going to challenge him. The legal fraternity should challenge same, women should challenge same, and this is a call to action. A call to ask that John Mahama, please stop the removal of the Chief Justice. And just for the purposes of filling the judiciary with people that you think have your party affiliation or links. We demand immediately the reinstatement of the Chief Justice, pending the final determination of all constitutional challenges by the Supreme Court. In fact, when there is a matter before the Supreme Court in reference to the same removal of the Chief Justice, we are extremely worried as the minority why President Mahama will still proceed to cause the removal of the Chief Justice when there is what we call the independence of the judiciary. And there is a matter pending before the judges of the same Supreme Court. To the fullest extent of the law, the legal fraternity, civil society, and all defenders of democracy, and women, I am actually more worried about the fact that our daughters should feel threatened at this stage, because it tells you that you cannot aspire as a woman to get to this level. Women. Do not sleep for John Mahama to redirect state institutions under his cloak. Women.
That's Jerry Ahmed, is the Wejagbawe Member of Parliament, the Minority Chief Whip in Parliament, second Deputy Minority Chief Whip. And this is what the provision of Article 146, specific 6 to 10 of the 1992 Constitution as applies to this particular instance we're seeing right now dictates. And I want our viewers to also follow us every step of the way. And I promised you that we're making copies of the 1992 Constitution available to you, our viewers. Last week, we had a number of you coming for your free copies of the 1992 Constitution. 20 copies we give to you for free. Kind courtesy, the National Commission for Civic Education, also in supporting our cause here at Key Point, to educate you, our viewers, especially on matters of the law. So today we have another 20 copies of the Constitution to give to you, our viewers, for free. All you need to do is come to us here at TV3. It's first come, first serve. So a number of you got your copies last week. Today we have 20 copies, thanks to the NCCA for that as well, so that you can follow the legal conversation as we have it. This is 1466. It says, where the petitions for the removal of the Chief Justice, the President shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint a committee consisting of 2 justices of the Supreme Court, one of whom shall be appointed chair by the President, and 3 other persons who are not members of the Council of State, nor members of Parliament, nor lawyers. So take note of it. This 5-member committee that has been established, this is the composition of the committee. 2 justices of the Supreme Court, one of whom shall be appointed chairman by the President, 3 other persons who are not members of the Council of State, nor members of Parliament, nor lawyers. So the 5-member committee that was announced this week, this is the composition, and we'll give you the details. 7 says, the committee appointed under Clause 6 of this article shall inquire into the petition and recommend to the President whether the Chief Justice ought to be removed from office. Then it continues. All proceedings under this article shall be held in camera. All of them, including the petitions and the responses by the Chief Justice, all of them in camera. And the justice or chairman against whom the petition is made is entitled to be heard in his or her defense by him or herself, or by a lawyer, or by other expert of his or her choice. So that's what's going to happen after, or in the coming days after the suspension. The President shall, in each case, act in accordance with the recommendations of the committee. And then let's go to 10. And this is what's happened. Where a petition has been referred to a committee under this article, the president may, in the case of the Chief Justice, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State, by a warrant signed by him, suspend the Chief Justice. So this is what has happened now. Let's go back to 10A. What has happened this week is what is in this provision, 14610A of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. But if you look at 14611, let's go to 11. The next, in the case of any, the president may at any time revoke the suspension as well under this article. So that's another option left for the president to explore. But there's been previous chief justices that have been petitioned, and we will put that on the screen as well. The number of petitions that previous chief justices have also had, and this is it. And then I'll tell you the 5-member committee that this week was announced by the presidency. First off, Philip Edward Archer, who was a Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana between 1991 and 1995. There's no records found of any petitions against him. Same as Isaac Kobina Aban from 1995 to 2001. No records of any petition. But between 2001 and 2003, Francis Janko Asase Kofi petitioned the then Chief Justice Edward Kwame Redu on the basis of lying under oath about his date of birth, whether it was 1934 or 1932, deceiving Parliament during vetting to extend his tenure, committing perjury by providing false information to a public officer. And then, well, the petition was looked into. This was the verdict. In fact, it failed. Essentially, there was no prima facie established against the then Chief Justice, and he voluntarily retired. Now, George Kingsley Akwa, who served as Chief Justice between 2003 and 2007, was petitioned by Bright Akwete, very famous case that a number of lawyers reference, private legal practitioner Bright Akwete as well. The basis for the petition was judicial interference. Bright Akwete says this Chief Justice was alleged to be instructing judges on how to rule on specific cases, abuse of office, misuse of his authority in judicial matters, and the victimization of judges, that if you don't rule a certain way, you face some sort of victimization. That was the allegation captured in the petition. It was looked into. And remember, this was a churner of the former president, John Ejekum Kufuor. The petition failed. Now, if you look at the next as well, Georgina Tudor-Wood served as a Chief Justice for 10 years, as we have seen, and spans 3 administrations. Appointed by the former president, John Ejekum Kufuor, served as Chief Justice under the late John Evans Tamils, served as Chief Justice during the first term of the President John Dramani Mahama. The home and abroad citizens petitioned her, or submitted a petition against her between that period on the matter of, let's say, unfair handling of land cases related to the Gadangbe people. And this is a matter that is even still ongoing. This land matters would go to the Gadangbe people. The basis of the petition, in fact, by one NS Obri-Latte as well, stated misbehavior. 2 petitions against her, that failed. So Faye Akufo was not spared as well. ASEPA petition, submitted a petition against her between 2017 and 2019. That petition also failed. ASEPA has been busy indeed in petitioning the president about some chief justices in the past. Kwesi Yabua, the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, was petitioned on some alleged $5 million bribery scandal by one lawyer. That petition failed. And then this current Chief Justice, Gertrude Araba Isaba Saki Tukono, has the highest number of petitions against her. In fact, this week we got to know of 2 new petitions. So that brings the number to 6. So because at the time we prepared this, 4 is what we knew. The first by Professor Kweku Asare, and then the 3 petitions. The first by Professor Kweku Asare was then submitted to the former president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. That failed. But then the 3 is what has gained currency now and led to this particular point where a prima facie case, we understand, has been established against the Chief Justice. But Amaliba, a prima facie case being established doesn't necessarily, put the Chief Justice at the point of guilt, does it not?
No, it doesn't. What it only shows is that the Chief Justice has a case to answer, and that it's likely she can exonerate herself if she goes before the committee. And so those who are running ahead of themselves should hold their horses. She's now going to meet the committee. I don't know what she has met. Has she met them? Not yet.
We don't have any information.
So it is for her now to go before the committee and debunk all those allegations that are made against her. If she succeeds, she will come back, because the committee will then say that the petition has failed, as in other cases. If she doesn't succeed, then the committee will write to the president, telling the president that she failed to, exonerate herself, and she will go. Now, this is not the first time Article 146 has been activated. No, this is not the first time. Yes, it is the first time that the Chief Justice is a subject matter of Article 146. This same president, John Dramani Mahama, actually presided over one of them, which is the Loretta Lamte case. And in that case, the petition succeeded.
And that's the former Shraj.
The Shraj boss. Indeed.
That was
the party appointed. Yes.
That was the Frank Anodompre.
Anodompre and my friend Richard Nyama. They brought 2 petitions each, 1 each. Now, in that one, if you consider the fact that it is the MPP people who brought that petition, and the president went through the process as laid out in the Constitution, they didn't find anything wrong with it. Today, as we speak, this president has been faithful to the letter of this Constitution. The president even went to the extent of giving the petition to the Chief Justice, which is not stated in the Constitution. You remember that 10 days he gave her? And so, if I find the MPP engaging in these shenanigans, I call that as a hogwash approach to what is happening by the Constitution.
Why is that?
It's nonsense. Hogwash means nonsense.
I'm asking you why you would describe it
because
as that.
So far,
I'm convinced that why would you want to take this path?
So far, I have not seen where in the Constitution the president has gone wrong. I want them to show. And you see, when you find a lawyer arguing about the spirit of the law and not talking about the letter of the law first, that person has lost the case. Can you see spirit?
It depends on the powers you have.
What power? Okay, I don't have those powers.
Can be found in the deliberations of the Constitution.
But if the letter of the law is being followed, the spirit is embodied there.
Well, the position is that due process is being followed. Yes. But due process can be weaponized as well to achieve whatever political objective, is it not?
So where is the weaponization here? If the president had just on his own sacked the Chief Justice, then I'll say that this is the weaponization of it. But the Constitution is being followed. Today, as we speak, the Chief Justice himself is not crying loud than the MPP. What is it that the MPP cannot, as it were, sever the umbilical cord that is between the two of them? What is it that the MPP cannot sever that umbilical cord? What is wrong with the MPP crying more than the Chief Justice? Persons who are not even connected to this petition are resigning. The Judicial Secretary, even those who are not connected to the petition are resigning. So, Is it the case that the NPP thinks that the Chief Justice must necessarily be there because they kept her there for a certain purpose? I don't know. I'm just asking a question. Now look at their press conference. Another useless one.
But they say that, I mean, that's their position. You would disagree and not necessarily describe them as useless. The point is,
do you know that
they say that one taking this part, these petitions against her are frivolous and have no basis in
yesterday
fact.
I heard Nana B, and I cringed when he was talking.
Well, because we didn't hear him, I don't want you to quote and just respond to it. Because he didn't speak here. And he's not here.
Okay, granted. But look at the press conference. You accuse the NDC of trying to remove the Chief Justice and pack the judiciary with political appointees, when indeed, under your regime, you appointed an NPP parliamentary candidate to the Supreme Court. And have you noticed that ever since they came out of government and they are in opposition, the very things they did to Ghanaians, and Ghanaians complain about and remove them, they are now at the opposition and complaining. They destroyed this economy. They are accusing the NDC of destroying the economy. They did worse when it came to Galamsey. They are on the hills talking about Galamsey. So they do things and turn around to complain as if during their time all was rosy. Come to think of it, if the president suspends the Chief Justice, then you go to court and say that the court should restrain the president from removing the Chief Justice. Hasn't the act already been done? And the Supreme Court is not above the Constitution. In fact, the Supreme Court was created by the Constitution. The Supreme Court is under this Constitution. The Supreme Court cannot do what this Constitution does not allow them to do. Mm-hmm. And if you read, and you read it, the only person who can restore the Chief Justice is who? The President. Mm-hmm. This is it, 11. The President may at any time revoke or a suspension under this article. So, in fact, the Supreme Court has no power to ask the Chief Justice to return. It is the President. Mm-hmm. So you see that clearly the MPP is in 6s and 9s because they are of the view that this Chief Justice was the one who will protect them.
You think that's what they think?
That's it. That is it. Who will protect them if they are in opposition? Now they have seen that this person is overwhelmed and they want to come to his aid. I have not seen anything that the president has done so far which is unconstitutional, which does not follow the law, and for that matter, the Supreme Court should intervene.
Well, the legal thinking shows that, as you have referenced, prima facie doesn't necessarily equate to guilt. When people, I've listened to some lawyers who make the point that when people draw the parallel lines with Charlotte Osei, you probably also forget that in that instance, the then president didn't suspend Charlotte Osei, even after the said prima facie was established against her, much to the disapproval of the lawyers of the petitioners at the time. So, why now?
It is discretionary. When you read it, it is discretionary. May or may not. It is discretionary. And so, if Akufo-Addo did not exercise that power, it doesn't mean that other presidents should not exercise that power. Apart from that, in Charlotte Osei too, Charlotte Osei didn't have the benefit of also being handed the petition. In this case too, you have this president using his discretion to give the Chief Justice the petition even ahead of time. So it depends on what each president sees and deems fit. But once it is within the law, there's actually nothing wrong with that. So I think that it's a red herring. It is just to make noise. I'm told they are going to have a demonstration over this. That will not stop the president from still acting. The president will still go ahead. They can hemorrhage. The process will still go. They can bleed. The process will still go on. And we'll all see the end of this matter.
I see. But then, politically, wise to have gone on this path?
Which path?
Of suspending the Chief Justice?
You see, this constitution was made for the people of this country. And the framers of the constitution envisage citizen participation in governance. And so when you see instances where the constitution allows for petitions to come from the citizens, that is how the citizens can participate in the governance of this country. The participation of citizens requires that the president should also abide by the constitution. There is no politics in here. Come to think of it, if the NDC even wanted to remove her and there was nothing about her at all, how was the NDC going to remove her? Come to think, if President Mahama hated her so much and wanted to remove her and there was nothing to show that she didn't even drink water that was meant for John Mahama,
there had to be an establishment of
there must be an establishment. And have they established it? The answer is yes. That is all. That is all you should look at. Purely law. Nothing more, nothing less. And I don't know why you are even going on that tangent.
Well,
that is it political?
Questions. I'm asking, you need to answer.
I'm
asking questions.
So it's not political.
I mean, this is questions that
people are asking. I agree with you. So it is not political. It is that she has also acted in ways that has brought her office and herself into disrepute. Why would you misappropriate funds? Clearly, you can travel with your spouse officially, but you can't do that privately. Then you on your own want to change the process. And that is a lawyer. That is a judge. These matters come before her. She rules according to the law. Suppose this matter is going to court about how she changed the travel arrangement. Will she survive? As just a matter in court. So I am of the view that we should allow the process to go on, and when we get to the end, we will see. I have indicated here, my opening remarks is that it doesn't mean that she's already guilty. If she's able to disprove those allegations, she walks home and goes back to take her office. That's all. That's all.
The likes of Sam Okudzeto, respected senior legal practitioner, says he doesn't see the Chief Justice really, coming back after this process.
Does he know something that we don't, the rest don't know? Because this doesn't mean that when the earlier petition went to him, he said that he wrote the opinion, went to him, he saw wrongdoings, but yet covered them up. And so now that the new government is in, those wrongdoings will not be covered up, and that's why he's making those conclusions, that he already knows that the Chief Justice might have done wrong things, but when the petition came before them, they closed their eyes on it. But this time, because the new government, I'm sure that's where he's coming from, that he can't see her surviving. If that is the case, I agree with him.
Okay. Well, we spoke to him earlier in the week. Okay. But just recall that this is what Sam Okudzeto said regarding this suspension, and then also the process at play right now. I'm going to be joined by Xavier Kuji, who speaks for the Ghana Bar Association as well. They issued a press statement this week on this matter. But this is Sam Okudzeto earlier in the week. Take a look.
Well, let's put it this way. We live in a country which is very, very political, and perhaps sometimes it affects, it clouds people's judgment, conduct, action, utterances, and so on and so forth. But when there is a particular provision in the Constitution, I see what has been said or done is actually in compliance with what is in the Constitution.
Let's lean in a bit on your experience when the first petition was taken by Professor Kweku Asare to President Akufo-Addo. You were one of the members of the Council of State who were consulted in that entire process. Considering the position you have now on the argument that this process could be subject to political manipulation, what would you say are the lessons you drew from that process and what can be done going forward from what we've seen play out today?
Well, this is what I'm saying, that constitutional provisions are there, but it does not prevent people from putting political sentiments into it. It does not prevent it from happening. It can happen. And so far as I know, the previous petition that was sent mailed against the Chief Justice was surprisingly dated 18th December, which I thought was a little odd, that if a government is in office for maybe some 3 weeks or so only, and then somebody sends a petition, it smacks of, something else. But of course, it was dealt with by the Council of State, and the Council of State said they found no merit in the petition, and so we recommend that it be dismissed. So that is what happened. But then the question is that when people are bent on someone, then you find out that, personally, I feel that it's a dangerous thing for any democracy. When you begin to, when the public is allowed, well, sometimes when people say that the public has a right, yes, the question, of course, is that the public right sometimes is also suspicious in the sense that not everybody understands the judicial system or the way it works.
Right.
Not everybody even understands what goes on in the court. Sometimes even a judgment is given and people accuse the judges of being biased and so because the judgment does not come the way they want it to be. Unfortunately, even sometimes some of my own legal colleagues also make offenses of that nature, which is also quite sad, because we know that when you go to court, you either win or you lose.
Amakuja today, essentially making the point that the perception about bias on the part of the Chief Justice is just politics at play and nothing else.
And don't forget that the person talking is also a politician. Okujeto is neck deep in the NPP. So you can also divorce his submissions from politics. But he admits that so far the processes as laid out is being followed by the president. He admits in his first comment.
Yes.
He admits that one. But now he then goes further by trying to speak politics into it. You have noticed that all the MPP lawyers, none of them have said that article this has been violated, article that has been violated, article this has... No, they are not saying that. All that they are saying is that they feel it's political. They feel it's political. But I have also said that even if something is political and you live your life beyond reproach, nothing can be done to you. And that is what I think we should look at. Has she actually breached any provisions of any law? Has she been complicit in anything? If the answer is no, the committee will exonerate her. But if the answer is yes, she exits like others have exited. Democracy is under attack. Which democracy is under attack? Is she the bastion of democracy? She alone? She alone? All of us are not democratic. She alone?
She's the head of
it doesn't
another
matter.
arm of government.
It doesn't matter.
The judiciary.
Yes.
She's critical.
She's been out for the past 3 days.
Architecture of the country.
No, she's not critical. Her role that role is critical. The human being is not
yes,
critical.
I'm talking about the judiciary in a sense.
Alfred, yes. She's been out for the past. She's been out for the past 3 days. Has the judiciary crumbled? She's been out for 3 days now, or 4 days. I don't know. Has the judiciary crumbled? Has anybody complained after going to court that she went there and judges were not there, or she went there and justice was mutilated? Nothing. So she is not the one. It is about the position, and whoever we put there would perform that position. So the MPP is just engaged in what I said yesterday, that they are engaging. What did I say? I forgot.
The hogwash.
No, not that one. So when people go to spiritualists, when they go to spiritualists, trying to do cha-cha and see whether when they when they complain about this, this will hold. When they complain about this, this will hold. No. They are only throwing mud to see where it will stick. But in truth and in fact, they know in down their hearts that nothing has been breached by the Constitution.
But the public also needs to understand that this is due process at play.
Yes.
Devoid of politics.
That is devoid of politics. But you also know, can she ever survive? Even just as we speak, 2 more have come. What is it about her?
2 additional petitions
have come. What is it about her as a Chief Justice? Like you are saying, that she's the fountain of the justice system. What is it about her that all these petitions are coming?
There's a call from Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, who is leading the committee on this constitutional review process and the engagements we've seen. Also has the Center for Democratic Development, CDD. He makes a call. He says, at the minimum, the findings and the outcome of the said proceedings at play now, including the grounds and supporting evidence behind the removal petition, must be made public after the fact. Where the removal petition pertains to a Chief Justice, no sitting judge should be included in the 5-person removal committee that is constituted to hear the petition. What's your response to this?
I think this is about constitutional reforms. He's talking about law reform.
Yes.
In future.
Oh, not necessarily.
No, in future. This is not born after the Constitution.
Yeah, but doesn't mean that as a part of policy and governance, transparency, we share the information.
No, I'm talking about, okay, there are 2 things here. Yeah. He's talking about judges not sitting.
Yes, there are 2.
Exactly,
actually.
2 things. He's talking about judges not being part of the panel, and he's talking about making the petition public. As for making the petition public, I agree in total, because I don't understand why all those processes must be concealed. We also need to know.
Okay.
We need to know. We need to know. We need to know what allegations are made before against the Chief Justice, and we need to know also her response. At the moment, there are all manner of information going out, coming from her, also the petitioners. I don't know which one is the right one, but I think that carrying the people along from day one is important. I can understand why the framers of the Constitution try to say this should be in camera. It's because some allegations which may be detrimental to the unity of this country may come out. That is why they did that. But I don't think that we've come to a point where information sharing is key. But for what he is saying now, that this can only take place when the Constitution is amended, where about the 2 judges, whether the judges should sit or not. That is constitutional reform he's talking about.
Which he is leading the process.
Yeah, he's leading.
Thank you. But on this particular one, Senor, as well, you agree at least that at the minimum...
I don't agree that information should be shared prior. I think that
that's after the fact. I think it was clear.
I think that after the fact, his recommendation is on point. Because people must have their actions explained to us. Those who have been nominated to be on the committee are representing the people of Ghana. They must account to us. We need to understand the basis of their decisions. All right, just like every ruling, a judge is required to publish the ruling. It should be accessible by everybody, and we all get guided by the outcome of the ruling. It should also be subject to public criticism. You know, that enhances our democracy and accountability. Now, the issue about a sitting judge, I can understand him. Then maybe we should also add that nobody who has had a case before the court should also be nominated. So where are we going with this? There's a reason why judges should be there. They have been trained with the capacity of being the last arbiters in issues relative to our jurisprudence and our social construct. So I think, I may vary that, but maybe we should have a nice debate. H. Prempeh is a fantastic brain, and it's a very engaging person. We should have a debate for it. I don't agree with Amaliba that everything should be put public right from start. No. You see, people are going to spew things. It's not every allegation, even when true, may be considered meritorious enough for the removal of such officers. It's not even when true. It depends on the gravity of that allegation. But when it becomes a matter of massive public discourse, it may also bring into question the moral standing or the competence of the image of whichever officer, in this case the CJ's image, into question, even if she has to stay in there. The deliberations may bring certain things that, even though there may not be basis for removing anybody, may make the public question the dignity of her person in that office. All right, so we haven't removed you, but we have actually taken the shoes off your feet, you know, under your feet. So I think that, and the other last one, which I think is more important, is to also minimize the prejudice that the committee may be faced with as a result of our public discourse. Do we need to have our public discourse practically prosecuting the matter heavily out here? You're a lawyer. They say when the matter is in court or something, there's a limit to which we can have a conversation. But when you make these petitions public, the conversations will be deep. You can't even control it. You know, and it can influence the thinking and the independence of the people who have to oversee it. So I think that this system has to really be protected. I saw that the presidency had protected it. I was very disappointed when I saw the actual petitions out. And I also saw her responses out. I'm convinced who did it, but I won't say. And people think that it is another way to try and arm twist the process. It's not fair. You're not being fair to the woman, neither are you being fair. So you read the petition right now. Many of us can easily make quick conclusions. You understand? Which was not right. I think that it should have public sympathy. You won't get it. You won't get it. It wasn't wise. It wasn't wise. You know, it wasn't wise. Those who did it should bow their heads in shame. Besides breaching a certain sense of responsibility that comes with the privileges that they have had, you know, they haven't helped the Chief Justice. I don't know, it's very dumb for anybody to think that this thing coming out has helped the Chief Justice. It hasn't. It's actually even made many people just conclude, I know where to pin you down. It's over. If people cannot come back and will make nonsense out of this obvious fact, then you're in trouble. It wasn't wise. But let's protect this process. For certain offices, it is not just the legal standing. It also comes with a certain aura that the public must extend to you in reverence and in submission and in honor. When we make these processes too public, it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem. Even when they survive, they can't.
Well, but the law is clear. It shouldn't be public. Whoever made it public, obviously...
But it's public, so we can discuss it.
Indeed. But that's what I'm saying, that whoever made it public, you are questioning the impact it would have. But the law is quite clear on what the process should be, you know, going forward. But then again, it is due process that is at play. That cannot be questioned at any point.
Look at the statement from the Ghana Bar. But now I can see that my brother is around. But I think that today we have to find Eduji for not being here. He has abandoned his brother.
He has good reason.
Because of him, I knew where my fully high. Because I wanted to join him in our board.
There was an emergency situation. You know, he has to deal with other equally important
matters. 2 bottles. That's all. Nothing else. Just 2 bottles is fine.
Okay,
all right,
let's
look at what Uncle Sam said. I found it quite... He's a politician, so we have to respect that. You don't accrue excessive expectations of statesmen when they are politicians. You respect their statesmanship, but also acknowledge the fact that they are politicians. So you shouldn't always think that they have to be politicians. He admits clearly that no process has been reached. Last week, we were properly schooled, and it was well articulated by Eduji. Nobody questioned it. Every single NDC, MPP, lawyer, parliament, the sound ones. You have everybody, nobody questions the process. The question as to whether it's politically motivated or not is moot. The woman hasn't carried herself in any way that she will become a friend or be loved by the NDC. But the NDC too will not be able to remove her unless they have a basis to remove her. And in this case, the NDC hasn't filed any petition. The president has just been following the process. You have 31 people sitting at the Council of State. Not 2, not 3, not nominees of the president. 31. I wish the results of the prima facie vote on that whole thing comes out. Well, from my understanding, there was only one dissent.
Some of them were nominated by the president.
But some. Yes. I said some. But the president did nominate everybody. You understand? In any case, there was a dissent. A dissent even coming from what I hear from an appointee of the president. You understand? You have 31 people there. And the 31 people don't have brains enough to be able to tell whether there's prima facie or not. Or they are so dumb and weak. They are malleable, politically malleable, that the president can ambush 31 people whose jobs are already secured in a government which just has only one term. Please, let's give people respect. The process should be respected. The president is respecting the process. If there's a case, there's a case. If a policeman wants to catch you and you don't cross the red light, he can't catch you. If he says, give me a fire extinguisher, and you have it, he can't catch you. If your reflectors are there, your light says, he can't catch you. The worst he can do for you, with you, is just waste your time by making you park and his fire extinguisher, and you have it, he can't catch you. If your reflectors are there, your light says, he can't catch you. It's just waste your time. Results will show, but constructively, it hasn't worked. She hasn't worked well. If 52% of Ghanaians from the Global Info Analytics are telling us that they want the Chief Justice out, and it's only 20% who oppose the idea. Only 20% who oppose the idea. 52%, and these 52% were not even privy to any information about her impropriety. It means that their perception and observation, experiential assessment of her management is suboptimal.
Well, some also hold the view that that's the down part of this survey, that to the extent that the people were responding to a question without knowing the details of really what they were responding to, but just the perception
I'm a
of
social
it,
scientist.
in its sense, takes a lot away from the integrity of the outcome.
It doesn't.
Why is that?
What it's telling you is that people's perception of her is low. They don't approve her management of affairs by their own experiences and observation. You should remember, when you are in a position of policy, you need to carry the people along. You do not just do things right, but you must be seen to be doing it right. And I'll leave it for the lawyers to quote the Constitution clearly about justice. And it being manifestly, I've forgotten the terminology.
It must not only be seen,
to be done, but
be manifestly seen.
Seen to be done. That is the matter. Are people seeing that? They are not. Their confidence and trust in the judiciary is at an all-time low. By the Afrobarometer report, 13%. 13%. My brother, please, do they have to come and show what's the basis of? That is their view. That is their expectation. That is their assessment. We are not in a good place as far as our judiciary is concerned. And the fact that the MPP made that particular statement, I was very disappointed. And I think that the MPP, I keep saying it, this is not the MPP of Darucha. This is not the MPP of J.H. Mensah. When you make arguments, they should be potent. We lose to sit up and want to hear J.H. Mensah Bosuje speak. What are we seeing now? Please. You know your president talking, women. A woman jump. The women in our country, are they dumb? When they went to vote, were they dumb? You think they can't see? When did we have women here when they were doing Charlotte say? When Justice Georgina Wood was Chief Justice, did anybody, when they went to vote, were they dumb? You think they can't see? When did we have women here? Justice was Chief. Please, let's allow the processes to go through. Whether it was motivated by politics or not, if you haven't committed a crime, you won't be caught. If it is not politically motivated and you've committed a crime, or you've breached trust, you must go. Lauren Lanty, it was her own party. Her own party. MPP people went to file a petition. The person who appointed her followed the process. It's the same human being today. He followed the process and he fired her. He fired her. Couldn't we have said that, look, she should have just moved to a rented place and maybe say we'll ask her to just refund a part of the money? But she exercised very bad judgment and she had to go. And I support the fact that she was fired. I support the petitioners of the time. And anybody who has a petition, if you have a sound argument, you must be supported. If your argument is not sound, it shouldn't be supported. The first one by Kukuazan, I saw the president's submissions. And I said that the president, former President Nanado, was right. Even though I'm not a fan of the Chief Justice, but his response to Kukuazan was right. How do you initiate a process being public when you know they're supposed to be in camera? And you're a lawyer. He didn't handle it well, in my opinion. His petition, in my opinion, and I respected Akufo-Addo's position. This process, John Mahama has handled it very well. And we should commend him for respecting it. Another comment. It is false for anybody to say that this thing is an attack on our democracy. It is ill-informed for anybody to suggest that this process is changing, is marring the image of our country in the light of any foreigners. How many of you, the people talking, how many of them are engaging actively with foreign businesses today? Please, people respect the fact and actually impressed. Investors are impressed by the fact that His Excellency the President is respecting processes in the law. He's following the law. He's not exercising arbitrariness. That is what my eyes are open. At any point in time, His Excellency the President exercise any form of arbitrariness, will be part of the people leading the charge for his impeachment. But he hasn't.
Will lead the charge to impeach the president.
Of course, if he doesn't follow the process, why shouldn't he follow the process? What is his mandate? And he's following the process, so you should commend him. You don't go around attacking him and suggest that the confidence in the... Please, Justice Konu is not the judiciary. She occupied an important role in our government and in our judiciary. She's not the only one with the capacity to do it. Our judiciary has been moving. She's even not the most experienced in our judiciary. You have the likes of Senior Damefe and co. Who have been at the bench longer than anybody. Where are they being kept up to now? I don't know our appeal court. Please.
Well, let me acknowledge the president and say, hold on a bit for me. Sevia Kuji speaks for the Ghana Bar Association. I know they are at a crucial meeting of the Bar Association as we speak, but he stepped out to speak to us. Counsel, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Lawyer Sevia Kuji, good morning. We'll try to raise him back on the telephone. He was having some difficulty joining us on Zoom, but we would find alternative means. But Lawyer Martin Kpebu, now this particular call by Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, that's where I want to bring you in on. Lawyer, can you hear me? Hello, Lawyer Martin Kpebu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Now, Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh's appeal or the call is that, at the minimum, the findings and outcome of the proceedings, including the grounds and supporting evidence behind the removal petition of the Chief Justice, must be made public after the fact. Is the call that you support?
Absolutely. You know, the reason is that, you know, we are democracy. And so transparency too is very key in a thriving democracy. You will find a number of Supreme Court decisions that talk about transparency, probity, accountability, etc. It's even in Pebu number 2 versus Attorney General number 2. So the Supreme Court says these are the hallmark, okay, of our democracy. So in other words, these are the pillars that hold our democracy together. So it would be odd to have a decision that remains a secret. And I don't think actually the president intends to do that. Because you remember when the Charlotte Osei matter came, at the end of them, the decision was released. We read it publicly. The procurement breaches, etc. Right? So we knew exactly what caused Charlotte Osei's removal. So in the same vein, and remember, Charlotte Osei was also removed under Article 146. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing, like the same key. About the ball, the children, right? Yes. So the same thing.
But,
right?
But how do you respond to that, the argument that in the case of Charlotte Osei, really she wasn't suspended? Obviously, the then President Nana Akufo-Addo did not exercise that discretion of suspension because, in his view, it wasn't politically wise to do so.
Well, what we should say is that in law, no two cases are the same. No two cases are the same. So for me, to the extent that we've not seen the prima facie determination, we've not been able to read the Council of State advice to the President and how the President wrote the prima facie determination, it's impossible for me to criticize the President on that score. You see, what we need to look at is that, even going by some of the allegations, remember that we are talking about the Chief Justice, okay? The most senior judge in the country. And you know, in the courts of law, we hold the highest standards, probity, accountability, etc. So the moment you say anything that has a semblance of having happened, is best that the Chief Justice were asked to stand aside for the investigations to go on. Mr. Ocansey, as we speak now, so, you know, the matter is that citizens have heard, you know, I'm not talking about the petitions because the law says we shouldn't talk about the petitions, okay, even though we've seen the but I'll just go with the MPP's own press conference and also the management letter. Management letter you referred to was the last week.
And in fact, before we even getting to that, because I referenced the management letter you also referenced as well, and the audit, there was an audit as well, which we have seen. But then the MPP's position is that the petitions and the details they have seen, they describe it as frivolous and feeble. I mean, is that doing the Chief Justice's case any good?
No, it's absolutely damaged her case, all right, at least in the court of public opinion. Remember, this how it started. When they came and made those allegations, I predicted that based on the way they've insulted the intelligence of the petitioners and their lawyers, the petitions would leak. And you see, truly, the petitions have leaked. I also predicted that the other side will come out and counteract. You see, they've come out to counteract. Then you've seen the management letter based on the audit, right? So it's the MPP that have damaged Chief Justice Tokonu's case. They've damaged it. It lacked tact. Yeah, what they did lacked tact. It's just like it was a bit of rabble-rousing. Let's just go and make some noise. Just shake the kaleidoscope. But it's not every time you just say, let's make some noise. Just shake the get a good result. No, it's not, because it is not a case against the MPP. It is a case against somebody the Akufo-Addo appointed. So they should have seen that distinction. But they didn't, and they ran into the arena of the conflict, and they have damaged their case. Because by referring to the petitions as frivolous, and yet they said the Chief Justice had to refund 75,000 Ghana cedis. Yes, that's what lawyer Daku said. The MP for Swami, that is lawyer Daku, the one who took over from Osei Mensabos. He said the Chief Justice had refunded 75,000. Well, refund meaning that think something should be possibly right. Yes, it's a less fund. Meaning you've come into some funds that you shouldn't have come into, and so you've returned it. Then they also went ahead to say that the person going to take over from Chief Justice Tokono is an NDC sympathizer. I mean, how would Afenyomakin lawyer Daku and the rest do that? How do you bastardize the judiciary like that? So they have caused
Justice Tokonu's case a great deal of harm and lack tact.
Okay. Lawyer Matubebo, hold a bit for me. And Lawyer Xavier Kuji, he speaks for the Ghana Bar Association. Let me acknowledge the fact that Abraham Amaliba has left us a while ago. He's going to attend to another equally important event. I've been joined as well by Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, acting CEO of the NPA. He's a private legal practitioner as well. He is joining us on Zoom. He was supposed to be with us in studio, but also had to attend to a very, very important development this morning. Mr. Tamaklo, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. And good morning to my co-panelists, and good morning to Efosunyo.
Great. Lawyer Xavier Kuji, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning and good morning to everybody.
The Ghana Bar Association issued a press statement on the suspension of the Chief Justice. Exactly what are your concerns in there?
Thank you for the opportunity. Our concerns are that it appears the discussions on this whole exercise are taking a political dimension. Nobody has so far said that the president has not triggered a provision in the Constitution. So our position is that why don't we all restrain ourselves, allow the process to be followed through to the logical conclusion, then the committee set up by the president will come up with his decision. If the decision, I believe, will be put in the public domain, then we'll get to know even the real content and of the petition. Then now, people are relying on a certain leaked set of documents, and they say that is the petition. What if at the end of the day, the petition before the committee, it is not what is in the public domain, or it is not exactly what is in the public domain? So we are just saying that let us allow the process to be followed through, because it's a constitutional process that has been triggered.
I see. Now, but if you say that it's taking a political dimension, yes, in what sense exactly? Because you acknowledge that the president is following due process, no?
Yeah, it appears we've lost the import of what is going on. It's the politics that is being discussed. I've followed through discussions on this. In the first place, why should we be discussing this? It's not as if this will take forever. At the end of the day, a committee will bring out its decision. Then we can begin the discussion. Those who don't even agree with the work done can go to court. But it's as if it's the politicians down that are trying to do what they want to do. Some want to go on demonstration. I'm wondering how you use demonstration to solve a legal problem. Let us not forget that when Uncle Abudati Dan had his issues then, people demonstrated. But at the end of the day, he still has to serve his term. So I don't see why we are doing all this. My concern has to do more with the lawyers. Some lawyers are even drawing conclusions. Once the committee has not even done any work, once no formal release of the petitions have been done, so you are relying on a leaked document which you think is a version of the petitions as a lawyer and drawing conclusions. That is unfortunate. That's where the concerns lie.
Well, but then again, what is the consequence or the impact of said political, as you put it, commentary on the process, which really is at play, as you have acknowledged that so far the president has done nothing wrong in following what the Constitution says?
Yes, those who believe that the president shouldn't have done what he's done or shouldn't have is not following the process are in court. So if the people want to go to court, I think they can go. But you see, this comment have the potential of influencing the process. That is the concern. Don't forget that the 5-member committee members, the members of the 5-member committee are also Ghanaians. They are not living elsewhere. So they listen to all we say. I believe they will do the right thing. That is why we encourage and entreat them that they should ensure the rule of law is at play. That is why everybody should keep calm. Let's restrain ourselves. At the end of the day, the outcome will be made known. Let's remember that the Chief Justice is still the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. He's just been suspended for purposes of the investigation going on. So nobody should think that the mere fact that he's been asked to step aside means that he's being removed. It is only when the committee comes up with a recommendation like that.
Well, but you talk about the committee. I mean, the constitution, I mean, the membership of the committee, these are persons, you would say, have impeccable record for the task at hand? No?
No, they are human. They have their limitations, but if you take the 2 judges, for instance, I believe the constitution, the framers do not just recommend judges for the fun of it. They know judges are trained for a special purpose, and they are going to bring their training to bear on the process. The other 3 who are non-lawyers will also do that, and will also do that. So I am just saying that let's stay off, allow them to do their work. At the end of the day, you have the opportunity to do all the criticism you want to do, to really go to court, because their decision is subject to the decision of the court. So why are we rushing?
No, but the conversation, at least from what we've been having on this platform so far, hasn't gone into so much of the details of the said petition.
Some lawyers have come out to say that, according to their analysis, no prima facie case should have been established. Why should a lawyer be saying that? Well, this is an ongoing process. In the middle of it, you are drawing conclusions. I think it's not the best to do, professionally.
I see. And you're saying that you carry out your mandate to defend, strengthen and enhance the justice delivery system in Ghana in the midst of all what is happening. What exactly are you going to be doing?
If you read the opening sentence of our statement, we say we've been closely monitoring the process. So for us, if there is a process that ought to be followed, is not followed, we'll have to intervene when necessary. But so far, I don't think that anybody should raise those issues. You should allow the process to go on. So all we're saying is that we will not sleep. We will be alert to make sure that the process is followed through. That is why we even encourage and entreat the committee members to work within the ambit of the law, so that at the end of the day, the rule of law will prevail. Because it is really Ghanaians who have made these laws for ourselves, including the Constitution. It's not any other person from anywhere. So we have to respect the laws.
And rightly so. I know you're following the discussion, so stay with us on it. And I know that the Ghana Bar Association, you're having your mid-year conference, which you are at now, reason why you couldn't join us in the studio. But kindly stay with us, because I'm going to come back to you. Lawyer Dejita Maklo, bring you on this, especially because of that particular point that Lawyer Xavier Kuji makes, and the GBA essentially talking about the politics of things. He acknowledges that due process is in place. I asked a question about the consequence or the impact of the politics that he's concerned about on the due process that is at play. Is there any real concern in there?
Okay, so once again, I want to say good morning to my learned senior Kuje. Having said that, I think that in a democracy, once these events are happening within a democratic society, the question of conversation and debate, you cannot take it away from that. I think what possibly we should maybe look at is whether the conversation is intemperate, whether the conversation are happening within the confines. Because you see, one of the cardinal principles of the 1992 Constitution.
If you could sit back a bit for me, sit back a bit. Sorry. Yes.
Is it better?
Yes, it is. Yes.
So, like I pointed out, one of the cardinal principles of our democracy is the question of transparency, probity. The word probity means to, as it were, probe. How do you do the probing? Is the conversation like we are having. So the current democratic dispensation allows Efosenyo to probe. It allows Malene Sitnia Kuje to probe. In fact, always remember that the Ghana Bar Association is just an association of lawyers. They have the right to speak like they are doing. So Ghana Medical Association should also have the right to speak. The only thing that is expected of all of us, that we speak within the confines of the law. So in that sphere, the president who received the petition what has been his conduct relative to these matters? Is it one within the confines of the law? If so, then let's allow the law to take hold. In fact, I saw a video where Her Ladyship, now suspended Chief Justice Mrs. Gertrude Tokono Asaba, made a point, Saki, made a point that, listen, people can make the noise, that the law is the law. You understand? Mm-hmm. So, in fact, democracy allows for noise making. That is what really shapes democratic society. And so, like I've read in the GBA letter, all that they are saying is that those who have discretion to exercise must exercise that within the confines of the law. Those who have, or the stakeholders in this engagement must remember that we are working within the strictures of the law, nothing more, nothing else. First of all, the communication from the Honorable Felix Fosu-Kwakye announcing that the President is in receipt of some petitions and that same will be forwarded to the Council of State for them to perform their constitutionally mandated rule relative to the impeachment process has always been very measured. You notice that in the statement, very terse, the President is in receipt of this straight, no commentary, no nothing, straight to the point. And I've always maintained, relative to this conversation, that so far, President Mahama has conducted himself so well. And I'm not surprised that if you look at the GBA letter, nowhere do they criticize John Mahama for doing anything that violates the Constitution. And for me, that's a huge plus. I would run this to you. Look, somewhere when H.E., the president, was president earlier, he decided to appoint 2 Supreme Court justices. His Lordship Justice Yao Apao and Justice Puaman. The Ghana Bar Association, I think then led by President Nene Amegache, who later became a Supreme Court judge, they went to the Supreme Court, challenging President Mahama's appointing authority, right? So this is a GBA that doesn't run away when they feel that something untoward has been done. And for them to issue this statement and not fault President John Dramani Mahama, for me, is a very significant development. And like I pointed out, President Mahama, today as we speak, there is no one in this country with that kind of vast experience like President Mahama. I say this with all due respect, that look, having been a member of parliament for 12 years, having been a deputy minister, vice president, and now president again, of the 32 million Ghanaians, the experience that he comes to the table with the greatest respect, is a unique one. And so if you look at the manner in which he had conducted himself so far, it is one that has been done with grace, with dignity, with fairness. Look, when these petition issues came out, and Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, then now suspended, right, wrote to the President, copying the GBA, Association of Judges and Magistrates, among others. Look at the grace with which the President received it. He said, look, I feel disappointed because I felt this communication could have happened between the two of us. But nonetheless, what you are entitled to, whether by law or convention, I will do that. Whereas you are asking me to give you 7 days to prepare your response, I will even give you 10 days to adequately shape your response. My understanding is that she just didn't only respond to the petition, she actually filed a supplementary response. What is the President required, together with the Council of State, to do at this critical moment? Is to make a firm assessment that on the face of the petition, is it frivolous? If it is not, the President, by law, is mandated as it were to put up this 5-member committee. Has it done so? Yes. If the President is following the law, which is consistent with the oath of office. In fact, if you look at the presidential oath of office, the president took an oath. Incidentally, before, the person who administered the presidential oath of office to the president was Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice Stockholm. And in that, President Mahama said he will solemnly preserve, protect, and respect the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. Why are people telling him that he should disrespect the Constitution? He should disobey the Constitution, knowing very well that if the president disobeys the Constitution, it's grounds for his impeachment. Why would we want to invite him into that realm? So, Alfred, I want to make the point once again that so far, as somebody would say, so good. Listen, I do not, and I do not want to sit in judgment over the Council of State, first chaired by the distinguished Honorable Do Ajaho, a man with considerable experience relative to our governance issue, almost 20 years or so as a member of Parliament, Speaker of Parliament, distinguished lawyer, now the chair of the Council of State. Her Ladyship, Vida Akoto Banfo, a retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Madam Betty Maud Idrisu, Mrs., former Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, distinguished lawyer. We are looking at Mohammed Mumuni. You know him, former Foreign Affairs Minister, distinguished lawyer, a diplomat of, great standing. Her Ladyship, Sophia Akufo, and in fact, in the specific case of Sophia Akufo, she has even had the benefit in the Charlotte Osei matter of being the one who determined the prima facie case against Charlotte Osei. You remember that in the Charlotte Osei matter, the petition was referred to her, the then Chief Justice, to determine the prima facie case against Charlotte Osei. This is the composition of the Council of State.
Okay.
How in God's name am I going to sit in judgment over these people? Two, if you look at the 5-member committee that has been set up, it is chaired by His Lordship Justice Gabriel Puaman.
Yes.
A man with considerable experience relative to politics in Ghana, having risen to the General Secretary of the PNC, subsequently became a Supreme Court judge, and in fact, somebody like His Lordship Justice Gabriel Puaman has a fair understanding of fairness. Because remember that the Ghana Bar Association challenged his appointment by President Mahama to the Supreme Court. So a fair understanding of what people need to go through. More importantly, His Lordship Justice Asiedu. Look at Asiedu's distinguished career as a judge of the Superior Court. He was taken to the Court of Appeal by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to the Supreme Court by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and so he comes to that committee with that fair and broad mind, having truncated regimes, right? Having truncated regimes.
Okay.
Then you have the well-respected and distinguished Daniel Domelevo. Look at Daniel Domelevo. And you see, I always say people's life experiences shapes how they conduct themselves going forward. This is a man who, as the Auditor General, for many years, right, introduced the idea of disallowance and surcharge. Okay? Even though the Constitution permitted that, and if you look at the Occupy Ghana and the Attorney General decision on surcharge and disallowance, no Auditor General had implemented that except Mr. Daniel Domelevo. Yes, of course, it's true. He had issues when he surcharged the crew matters involving Anaya Osafo and the events that happened subsequently. But you see, he comes to this committee with a certain experience. Remember, the understanding is that some of the concerns raised in the petition borders on the workings of the Auditor General, right?
Yes, I've seen a management and audit report as well.
So as a former Auditor General, he comes to the committee with that experience as a former Auditor General. He can appreciate those audit findings, the management committee report, what they actually mean in law, what they actually mean. So for instance, assuming without that meeting, that it is an established fact that when those matters were raised through the audit queries and others, Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, acting through the Judicial Council, assuming she even refunded some of the money, would that be said to be an admission of wrongdoing? How would an auditor, construe that conduct? You understand? And then you are somebody coming from academia. You are somebody coming from the military. And if you look at the previous committees, and I remember vividly, when in January 2015, right, President John Dramani Mahama, right, speaking to the then Chief of Staff, Professor Bani, gave the indication that to ensure the integrity of the impeachment process against Vivian Lamte, Loretta Lamte, right, President Mahama suspended her and said, if she continues to be in the office whilst she's being investigated, it would undermine the very investigative process.
So you seek to say that that's the same process at play now? I mean,
yes, and so I'm dovetailing this into a broader conversation. As
while
to
you
the consistent conduct, yes, I'm wrapping up. In the consistent conduct of President John Dramani Mahama, just to show that he's not a man who acts on impulse. No, he's not impulsive. He's methodical. President Mahama has demonstrated a greater sense of fairness, consistent with the dictates of Article 296, which requires that, assuming he even has a discretion, he ought to do that with a genuine sense of fairness. So when Her Ladyship asked, that give me 7 days, he said, no, I'll give you even 10 days. Prepare your defense adequately. Have the time, prepare this. Look, and I'll conclude on this.
Quickly.
When Madame Charlotte Osei demanded of Akufo-Addo that they should give her, through the lawyer, a copy of the petition for her removal, Eugene Ahi, who speaks for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo then, refused that invitation and said Charlotte Osei will have the benefit of the petition when she appeared before Chief Justice Sophia Akufo. Is that the same event today? No. And I remember when Nana Addo finally put the committee comprising His Lordship Justice Benin, Justice Mafusao, Justice Adedoji, Abrapia, and the rest to investigate Charlotte Osei. Do you know that it was before the committee that Charlotte Osei finally got the benefit of the full petition? All these things have happened in our history before. And that is why I find it extremely surprising, the posturing of our brothers in the MPP. I mean, today said that even some people said they are going on demonstration because President Mahama is holding fidelity to the Constitution.
Well, the Bar Association says, well, they in their view, they don't know how that is going to influence the process in its sense.
And you see, Alfred, it's important that with respect, it's important that we call out some people. A man who has taken an oath to respect the Constitution of the Republic is respecting the Constitution. Then a group of people say, we are going on demonstration because the man is holding fidelity to the law. I mean, what is that?
Well,
and like my brother Senor said, this is not the Darocha MPP.
Well,
this is not the state MPP.
Hold on a bit, because I have been joined as well, Lawyer Digital Maclo, by Professor Kwekwaza. In fact, he was mentioned earlier. In fact, he is one of, in fact, he's the first petitioner, if I put it that, the first petitioner against the current Chief Justice. his petition was the first, but that petition was to the former president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, after the elections. And the former president dismissed the said petitions. He gave reasons for that.
Alfred, can you hear me? No, can you hear me?
I can hear you,
but you see, can you just give me 1 minute? Before,
quickly.
I just want to read a decision.
Because I need to bring in Professor Kwaza quickly.
Yes, I want to read a decision of the Supreme Court in the case of Peter Derry, Justice Paul Peter Derry, and Attorney General and Judicial Council, when an attempt was made to stop the impeachment process of him. And this is what the Supreme Court said, quote, "It becomes plain that the first and second plaintiffs are not sitting judges, as from what I have endeavored to state above. They are neither administrative leave or on suspension." Now, it is clear in our mind that a situation where the impeachment process has already started, that process cannot be truncated, unquote. So, where in this case, right, an impeachment proceedings has already commenced, an attempt is made to go to court and say, we want to injunct. The Supreme Court said no. And I just want to quote here, quote, "Next, we believe that the attempt made by the plaintiff herein to abort the process because of the violation of Article 8 of Article 146 by the public disclosure of the petition and its content brings it in direct conflict with the very constitutional provisions which say the process cannot be truncated except in two situations mentioned already. The petition that commences the impeachment proceeding derives its validity from the Constitution, and thus, unless clear intention is expressed, that validity cannot be taken away only because there is the procedural infringement. The duty imposed on the Chief Justice and here the Council of State to make a prima facie determination is derived from the validity of the petition. Okay. And that duty by the terms of the Constitution prevails until that determination is made. There is nothing in the Constitution that prevents here the Council of State from performing that constitutionally imposed duty once the President had referred the petition to them. So I think that we all need to get it clear that the Supreme Court had ruled that attempt to abort the proceedings brings it in conflict with the provisions of the 1992 Constitution. So this is what the Supreme Court itself has said.
Right. Well, in fact, there are a number of pronouncements on this Article 146, as you have referenced, by the Supreme Court, bringing clarity on every step of it. But then again, as I indicated, Professor Stephen Kweku Asare is joining us on Zoom as well, because he is the first petitioner against the current Chief Justice. And this petition was just a few days or maybe weeks after the election. And that petition, the first petition, was dismissed. The then President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo gave reasons for that in a letter that was a statement that was issued on the 6th of January, just a day before the swearing-in of John Dramani Mahama. Professor Stephen Kweku Asare, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Alfred. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm going to go for this quick break. When we're back, Professor Stephen Kweku Asare is going to respond to a reference that Senior made to his petition, and then the current conversation at play right now with respect to the due process that is ongoing and the concerns that have been raised about it. I'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us here on Key Point. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on the Voice of London radio in the heart of the city of London, and a number of radio stations across the country. Thank you so much for joining us. And this morning, as always, with every Saturday, the outfit you see me wearing is by Cobra Clothing, and they are responsible for making me look good every Saturday morning. Cobra Clothing is the best version of you. Locate them on the Spintex Road, 18 Junction, opposite the Allied Oil Filling Station, ground floor, same building with the Ghana Made store. You can call them on 0244-238-341. That's 0244-238-341. 0244-238-341. Cobra Clothing, choose right. Professor Stephen Kweku Asare is with us on Zoom. Prof, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Alfred.
If you kindly sit up a bit for me, you're on record to have been the first person to have petitioned the then President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to at least look into certain concerns that you captured in that petition against the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tukono. That petition was dismissed. It was a 19-page petition. The President gave reasons why in that statement that was issued on the 6th of January, essentially indicating among the number of things that the petition was submitted without supporting evidence or documentation to substantiate your claim. The allegation, including claims of panel reconstitution, issuance of practice directions, and purported constitutional breaches by the Chief Justice, were found to be unsupported by evidence. The petitioner, that is yourself, you failed to demonstrate any factual basis or provide credible documentation to substantiate your claims against Gertrude Tukono. Prof, why is that?
Well, thank you, Alfred. In fact, I only tried to call in because my good friend, Senor Husi, made a statement about my alleged leakage of my petition. And I just wanted to come in and correct,
yes,
and correct the record.
Right.
That the President, in his prima facie determination, alleged without proof that I leaked the petition, in addition to clearly biased and dismissive language. For instance, he called me a self-acclaimed advocate of good governance. I mean, the tone of that determination clearly revealed that the President was not neutral as he was supposed to be. Second, I do believe that when you read the response the President gave, you could clearly see that he went beyond prima facie determination, or I'm afraid to say did not understand what a prima facie determination is all about. A prima facie determination simply seeks to establish whether allegations being made, if true, warrant investigation. It is not the job of the President to act as an adjudicator, as he sought to do, telling the world that I didn't understand the Constitution and becoming the defense attorney for the Chief Justice. That was very wrong. And at the time, there was not a whole lot of noise about how wrong it was, but it was very wrong. And you know, when I filed the petition, many media people tried to call me to come on air, and I refused because I respected the privacy of the proceedings as articulated in by Dateba in the Ajay Chun case. So this is the first time that I'm actually coming on TV to say something about this petition, which I thought was poorly handled. Now, you talk about my petition did not have evidence and so on. This is false. I not only had facts, but I provided dates, events, and I also indicated witnesses that I was going to bring along during the inquiry phase to substantiate the allegations that I was making. Because when you submit a petition to a president, you are not attaching evidence, because the president is not a trier of fact. You are submitting enough to let the president decide whether or not there's enough in there to push the matter to a body that can inquire into it. Okay, so when I come in there and I say, look, the Chief Justice, and before I even say that, let me acknowledge that, look, the removal of a Chief Justice is a grave matter. I certainly will never be part of any attempt to remove a Chief Justice unless I was absolutely convinced that there was a good reason to do that. Second, people often talk about judicial independence, and I agree with everything that they say about judicial independence, except when they talk about judicial independence, they are always talking about institutional independence, for the executive trying to intrude into the affairs of the judiciary. That is one facet of independence. But there's also decisional independence. And in decisional independence, the Chief Justice or any person can interfere with the proper or independent functioning of a judge or a judicial body. That is decisional independence. And that was the basis of my petition, that the Chief Justice had unconstitutionally inserted herself into the naming of Supreme Court justices. There's a very good reason that when you read the Constitution, it doesn't include the Chief Justice in this process, because the Supreme Court is supposed to be a court of equals. Every member of the court is an equal. The Chief Justice is the chief, largely because she also performs administrative functions. But when it comes to their judging, deciding cases, each panel member has one vote. Each panel member is an equal. And you can see the mayhem and the bedlam if indeed judges started coming to believe that they have to play ball with the Chief Justice, because the Chief Justice has a role in whether or not they are going to sit on the Supreme Court. It was unconstitutional and the gravest breach of our Constitution for the Chief Justice to name specific justices and write to the President, unknown to us until the letter was leaked, that I want A, B, C, D, E to be appointed to the Supreme Court. Why A, B, C, D, E? And look at the embarrassment that you bring to some of the judges who you've named, because some of the judges were actually sitting on political sensitive cases at the time. And to name them gives the appearance that the executive and the judiciary are in cahoot to promote people who are sitting on political sensitive cases. So that was a serious breach. And that was the only reason I filed the petition. It gives me no joy whatsoever. In fact, it's painful that I would submit a petition for the removal of a Chief Justice. But where the Chief Justice gives me no option by involving himself or herself in the naming of Supreme Court justices, that's just one leg of my petition. The second leg was in the reconstitution of panels. Panels that have already started hearing cases. If you read the Constitution tells us that once a panel starts to hear a case, that panel cannot be changed. In fact, the Chief Justice has no administrative authority over that panel. He couldn't tell them, sit today, or I'm moving one person out of the panel, because if she did that, and if we allowed a Chief Justice to do that, the Chief Justice will be interfering with the decisional independence of court panels, I mentioned specific cases in which this had happened. I indicated in my petition that I'll bring Justice Jamafe to testify about these things. And then third, I raised the question of how decrees were being used to regulate the courts, contrary to the Constitution. The Constitution says, look, if you are going to issue any directives about how courts should operate, do that with a constitutional instrument, and it specifies an elaborate process. The reason for that elaborate process is because we don't have an imperial Chief Justice who can just do whatever she wants. The Chief Justice is subject to the Constitution, and if you want to if you want to come out with a rule, there's a rule-making process. You have to meet with the Judicial Council. You have to have a constitutional instrument. It has to be laid in Parliament. It has to take a certain number of days to ripe. And then once it ripens, it becomes the law. But the Chief Justice was on her own doing these things. And this is the reason why I got involved. And I thought that if that or those things that she was doing were not addressed in a very fundamental way, we stand the risk of allowing future Chief Justices to do that because of the precedent that had been set by her. There's a reason why from Redu through Aqua to Georgina Wood to Sophia Kufu to Ani Yabua, none of them ever attempted to name somebody to the Supreme Court because they knew that was fatally and incurably flawed and wrong and unconstitutional and constitutes a violation of their oath of office.
Former president, and I just need to make a clarification that you referenced the president. I think this the former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is the one you petitioned. In all this clearly elucidated positions that you have just espoused, he concludes that your petition was deemed frivolous, vexatious, and unmeritorious. That was his conclusion to your petition.
That is laughable because
is it laughable?
Ask yourself, yeah, of course it's laughable. Ask yourself, after that petition, do we know whether it is wrong, or by that petition are we saying that future Chief Justices can reconstitute panels? Are we saying that future Chief Justices can send names to a president on who to appoint? Why this particular justices, not others? I mean, on the Court of Appeal, we have very experienced and very astute justices. Sir Dennis, for instance, comes to mind. Why would a Chief Justice overlook Sir Dennis and go and suggest some other person who is Sir Dennis's junior, not just in terms of tenure, but in terms of accomplishments? If the Chief Justice is allowed to do that, can't people understand and appreciate the toxic culture that would have been introduced into the judiciary, where every member of the court will now be trying to please the Chief Justice, something that the constitutional framers were keenly aware of and did all they can to say, no, we are not that kind of institution where the Chief Justice decides who should be promoted. Rather, let's leave that to the political branches to decide who should get nominated to the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal and so on. It is a grievous violation of the Constitution. It doesn't happen anywhere. It is not a light matter. You see, one of the things that I think we get fixated about is if something does not involve money, then people cannot see that there's a big issue. They say, oh, well, but there's no money involved. There is no breach of the Constitution as serious as a Chief Justice becoming the person who combs the court and decide who should be appointed to the Supreme Court or who should be promoted. Once you allow that, you compromise incurably the independence of the judiciary, because now all the judges are trying to please the Chief Justice, because you know that if you get into her bad books, if you are not in her good books, she's never going to recommend you for promotion. And that is something that we want to avoid. Are we saying that, or is that President Akufo-Addo saying that he doesn't think a committee should inquire into why court panels are reconstituted to the protestation of the parties in the case, and often in a way that gives the hint of political, a political flavor? He doesn't think that is a serious thing. This, to me, was so fundamental that anybody who understands what a prima facie determination is will laugh when you read what was written in that. The Council of State, my uncle, I love Uncle Sam. I mean, I go to see him whenever I'm in Ghana and so on. He's very good to me. But he, before they determined the prima facie case, was out calling the petition stupidity. That's what he said. And you think the Council of State was independent in that determination? They are not independent. That was just some prefabricated determination, because any neutral panel would look at it and say, well, look, these allegations are serious. We don't know whether they warrant a removal or not. A committee should look into it, because the matters that have been raised are very fundamental to the health of the judiciary. And if we don't resolve them, we will create a precedent where future Chief Justices come in and then they start naming people to the Supreme Court. They start reconstituting panels. They start transferring people and so on. So I thought there should have been more outcry at the president's determination of no prima facie case.
In your petition?
And in my petition, yes. And in the current petition, where there is a prima facie determination, I mean, that makes sense, because the prima facie determination is such a low threshold that unless somebody is motivated by malice, they would make a good case. I mean, in my case, I mean, I had no malice. I don't have anything against the Chief Justice. In fact, I like the Chief Justice. I like the Chief Justice. And it pained me when she was doing some of those things. So as far back as maybe January 2024 or maybe later in 2023, I started making public announcements that these panel reconstitutions must stop. Justice Jamafe shown the red card. It's not good. Opuni judge transferred. It's not good. Imperial Chief Justice stop. I made repeated efforts to get to her to stop some of the things that she was doing. It was only when I concluded that she was not going to stop and that I had a civic duty to intervene. That's when I filed the petition. No petitioner is happy to file a petition. And I don't know about the president, but if I were to assume, no president enjoys being conscripted to determine a prima facie case, because they are sitting somewhere minding their own business, trying to push their agenda. But when the petition comes, they have no option. The Constitution mandates that they look at the petition, send it to the Council of State and determine a prima facie case. And like I said, the standard for prima facie case is not adjudication. It's not the duty of the president to say, well, the Chief Justice did this because Rule 4 allows the Chief Justice to do that. How do you know as a president? Are you a judge? You don't know any of these things. You are simply to determine a prima facie case, and anything that you say that is adjudicatory in nature which the president's prima facie determination, not the current president, but the former president, was pregnant with adjudicatory remarks, biased remarks. That response that the president gave to my petition is one that lecturers should use to teach their students how not to determine a prima facie case under Article 146.
You reference Justice Senyor Jamafe a number of times. Just to establish it, is it a meeting you had, or as whether you've met him before, or as just a reference to a particular position that he took in previous instances?
No, it was not it's not reference to a position that he took or whether I've met him, but he was one of the victims of this panel reconstitution.
Okay.
And so I was going to subpoena him and then put him on the oath to try to explain to us what happened.
Right.
I was actually going to subpoena the former president to try and establish whether there was collusion between him and the Chief Justice to name these people to the court. And then there was some plot whereby the Chief Justice was supposed to originate the names. And then the president would probably say, well, I don't know, it's not my decision, the judiciary wanted.
Okay.
I was going to do all that. That is why the inquiry was important.
I just needed that clarity. So it was not as though there was any meeting or no consultation with him.
No, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I've never met Justice Jamafe. Okay. I just know he was one of the victims of the removal. And I was going to put him on the oath and ask questions. Well, if he was not the only one, I was going to put several people, including members of the Judicial Council, on the oath to understand the processes by which Supreme Court judges are nominated, and to establish that in this case, those processes were not followed. Because that's what you do. That's the essence of the inquiry. It is only at the inquiry that you present witnesses and evidence, and you get to cross-examine. I'll be cross-examined. The Chief Justice will be there. The Chief Justice will also be cross-examined. So that's where the work gets done. Anybody at all can put anything on a petition and then in an answer to a petition. But that is why the standard is low. If we think there's something, let's send it to an inquiry. Then let us have a full-scale investigation where people and witnesses are put under oath and are examined and cross-examined so that we can arrive at the truth.
I see. Well, just hold on a bit for me, because of that point you make about other ways of your expectation of your petition being treated, and you describing the former president Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo's conclusions on your petition and the advice of the then Council of State on your petition. You describe it as laughable. Senor, there's a recommendation you say Professor Kukwasa should consider going forward. Why is that?
I think he's articulated his reasons very well. For me, my concerns were around the leakage, and I was speaking about the need for some solemnity around the process. But he's articulated his views, and he makes a lot of sense. So the question to him would be, why wouldn't he consider resubmitting his petition?
Professor Kukwasa, can you hear us? The question is whether you are going to consider resubmitting your petition to President John Dramani Mahama. Which was...
Well, again, following my stand on Article 146, I'm not going to disclose whether I will submit it, whether I've submitted it, whether I'm thinking about submitting it, and that will remain private.
Very well.
Well, that's respected, But then again, because and let's put it on record that yes, indeed, this is the first time you are speaking about your petition on any media platform, and we appreciate that. But then again, you hear the former president in that response to your petition essentially taking the position that the Chief Justice's conduct that you cited and haven't explained quite clearly why you depart in thought an imposition from Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the then Council of State position on your petition. He says that the Chief Justice's administrative responsibilities really under the Court Act were found to be consistent with the law and established practices based on what she had done. So why then again do you raise questions about it?
Because that's exactly my point. The president is now a judge. You know, he says, oh, okay, based on your petition, and I found out later on that the Chief Justice had responded. I never saw the Chief Justice's response, so I was not able to rebut her, her response. But the president is now a judge. He's saying, well, I think that the Court Act, I don't think that the Court Act supersedes the Constitution. When the Constitution says X should happen, I don't care what some Court Act is saying. And frankly, the Court Act that he quoted, he misquoted that. The Court Act doesn't say that. So everything that the president said, I disagree with completely. But that's not the point. The point is the president should not put himself in a position where he's now a judge, saying, well, I don't believe what the petitioner is saying. I believe what the Chief Justice is saying. Here is what the law is. That is the function of the committee that is supposed to inquire into the allegations. Only the committee is supposed to inquire into the allegations. Especially in my petition, where I allege that the Chief Justice improperly sent names to the president. So the president should have been sensitive and say, well, look, I'm even involved in this thing, and I want a committee to come out and establish that there was no wrongdoing. Why did he in rush circumscribe the committee's work? He actually short-circuited the committee's work, and in so doing, he, in my mind, did not do justice to the country. He harmed the Constitution, and you will see that in the future when students start reading his response critically compared to my petition. Fortunately, both of them are now public documents, so anybody at all can read my petition, can read the president's response, and if they understand what prima facie means, then they would know that the president strayed very, very, very badly.
So by contrast, the current president's decision to refer this recent petitions upon finding that it discloses a prima facie case, in your correctly embraces the constitutional meaning of that particular term?
Absolutely, because the president is basically saying, look, these people are saying these things, and the Chief Justice has come out to say some other things. I don't want to be the judge, so let a committee look into it. That is the nature of Article 146. Because if you ask the president to be the judge, then you are politicizing Article 146. Unfortunately, that's what the president sought to do.
You mean the former president, you mean?
The former president sought to do. Okay. And I think, I mean, this is just thinking, I don't have any evidence, that his premature and almost dismissive tone to my petition may have triggered the avalanche of petitions that we are seeing, because people want fairness. People like fairness. People don't want people to be mistreated. And whenever you act unfairly, you just push people to seek justice. And so I don't know the petitioners, but the new petitioners may be concerned that how do you look at these critical infractions by a sitting Chief Justice and come to the conclusion that no prima facie case have been determined, when the petitioner has said on this date the Chief Justice wrote this letter to the president, on that date the Chief Justice did that, and I'm going to bring these judges to come and testify, and so on. And then you sit somewhere as a president, you say, oh, this so-called advocate of good governance who has leaked the petition, you say he has leaked the petition without any proof. If you read what he wrote, he said the petition was left somewhere outside and then something. But when the leakage occurred, he doesn't tell us whether he investigated it. He has the National Investigation Bureau. If he was interested in finding out the source of the leakage, he would have asked for an investigation before writing, before accusing me of the leakage. That was wrong. Very wrong. You don't treat private citizens that way. You don't accuse private citizens using your bully pulpit. You don't accuse them without proof. You don't call them self-acclaimed advocates of good governance.
Okay.
That is not a president who was interested in determining a prima facie case. That was a president who was interested in defending a chief justice who had made improper contacts with him regarding who should sit on the Supreme Court.
Prof, I do appreciate your thoughts on that, and kindly stay with me because I have Judicial on this, the angle that Professor Stephen Kokwasari brings to this matter, especially taking into consideration being the first of the 4 petitions. Well, we now know that it's 6 petitions against this current Chief Justice who has been suspended. And then also the establishment of the prima facie case in this instance. He says that with what is happening now and what President John Dramani Mahama is doing is consistent with what the practice is. What is going to happen in the coming days as per the provisions in the Constitution?
Like I rightly pointed, and let me salute Professor Stephen Kokwasari, popularly called Kokwasa. Beyond his courtroom advocacy, in the sense of bringing constitutional matters to the fore and asking the courts to adjudicate on it. And let me say, this thing has not been doing it today. Professor Kokwasa has always been Kokwasa. I think that he's couched a certain niche for himself, that he wants our constitution to function well. I remember when President Mahama was going to do the Constitution Review Implementation Committee and his work. Again, he went to the Supreme Court to challenge it. So he showed that consistently, he just wants the Constitution to work. But you see, again, if you go back to the manner in which Nana Addo in the response, I've always felt that that letter was not written by Nana Addo himself. Because in private practice, Nana Addo has led people to advocate for doing right things relative to the Constitution. And so when that statement came out, I was a bit taken aback. I knew definitely it wasn't coming from him. Maybe one of the guys in the Jubilee House at that time decided to pen a personal, what you call it, rants to Professor Kokwasa. But that said, where things have gotten to, and like the Supreme Court decision that I've just read earlier, at this critical moment, her ladyship, the Chief Justice, pursuant to the release on Tuesday, is suspended. Like you call it loosely, interdicted Chief Justice. And as you know, when disciplinary proceedings are taken against people, even in ordinary, conversations, you see that there's always a fallback interdiction. So usually the two go together. In fact, you also know that when Justice Orderi and Co. issue came up, they were being given half their salary because they were also suspended because of the Tiger Eye. And they brought an application to the Supreme Court challenging the half salary they were being paid. The Supreme Court said no. The half salary that they were being paid is consistent with the constitutional provision, and for that matter, cannot undertake any judicial action or activity. The same would apply relative to her ladyship, the Chief Justice, as we speak. There's no action that she can take relative to the performance of her role as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. And like I pointed out, this is not the first time President John Dramani Mahama is having to suspend somebody because impeachment proceedings have taken place relative to that person. A classic example is in the case of the Strach boss appointed by President Mills. A petition came from an MPP activist, Richard Nyama, of the Progressive Nationalist Forum and Anodompre. President Mahama did not shut the door to them. He said, look, at this point, I am Pontius Pilate. I've received your petition. I am forwarding same to Judea for the proper thing to be taken. So having consulted the Council of State on this matter, and again now that a 5-member committee, my expectation is that the 5-member committee will work with expedition so that this matter doesn't drag. Because you see, it also creates a certain sense of uncertainty. You want this matter resolved immediately, and so that if there are bases, the president can proceed based on the recommendation of the committee that the Chief Justice stand removed. That is how we should bring finality to this conversation. Let's allow the committee to work. If in the wisdom of the 5-member committee, they have not made any basis or recommendation for her removal, so be it. However, if they make recommendation that she should be removed, like it happened to Madame Vivienne Loretta Lamptey, as it happened to Madame Charlotte Osei, the late Amadou Sule, and Mrs. Amankwa, the same ought to happen, so that clearly we know that we are all subjects of the 1992 Constitution. Like we say, nobody is above the law.
And rightly so. And I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. And a number of your messages. Alfred Mensah Onuma, thank you for the message. A number of you are asking that the program be repeated. It's a consideration that management is on. So thank you very much and for your messages. Good morning, Alfred. Legal sophistry is what we're seeing this morning from lawyer Ejiji Tamaklo and Professor Stephen Kweku Asare. He has maintained consistently that he's not a lawyer, so I would leave out lawyer Professor Kweku Asare as you put it. Malik Sulemana, thank you very much. Alfred, just for the records, Lawyer Chum Berima was adjudged the best student in international security and defense. Thank you very much. That's our previous guest, and a number of you are commenting on this. Professor Kweku Asare, in a minute, as we're rounding up on this, how do you expect the process to proceed going forward? Quickly, in a minute, please.
It will proceed just like the Constitution says. The committee, they are going to meet, they are going to call witnesses, and then they will come out with a decision. The president will be bound by whatever they decide.
Professor Kweku Asare, I thank you so much for joining us on this show this morning. Senor,
thank you so much.
Perfect. You issued a statement this week about the illegal, in fact, a couple of weeks, about illegal mining and matters arising. You had the call by the lands minister and the One Ghana movement. What's your position on this?
Yes, the One Ghana movement is part of the Ghana coalition against Galamsey, and we commend the minister for the steps he's taken. Boaz has done a good job. Bringing this Akunta mining issue to some knot is helpful. Erastus Asarodonko and some of our colleagues raised this matter last year, and nobody took action. And it seems the government at the time could care less. Okay. That was my biggest disappointment. But at least we brought this to naught for now. The investigations must proceed. We expect to see proper prosecutions. But more importantly, we need to have a system of accountability management. Who were responsible? We had mining mining officers who were responsible for monitoring these leases. People sat there and let it go. We had a CEO who is still the CEO of the Mining Commission, Minerals Commission. Sorry. I mean, who was there? There should be a proper and hold every single person accountable. Right. From the security services, everyone. If you've done nothing wrong, that's fine. But if you don't go into proper accountability management in these processes, we won't make any progress. And having said that, Akunta mining cannot be the full stop of this matter. Right. The matter is bigger than Akunta mining. the other political actors also across the political divide. Everybody must be brought to naught.
Thank you very much.
And let's safeguard our environment and our waters for the future of our children and our children's children.
And
God
he
bless
is
our
a
home
convener of the One Ghana movement, also with the Ghana Coalition Against Illegal Mining. Senor Jose, thank you. Professor Stephen Kweku-Asare, thank you so much. We had a number of persons also joining us earlier. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you for staying with us on Key Point.